Chapter 29:37. I know a good restaurant. Let's go eat there tonight. Is that restaurant yours? Chen Zhao asked. No, the building it's in is mine. Unlike Chen Zhao, who liked to buy restaurants, Dell liked to buy buildings. Let's go to my cafeteria first, Chen Zhao said. Why are we going there? Something. Okay. Dell drove to Chen Zhao's cafeteria. When the car stopped outside the cafeteria, Chen Zhao made a call. Carrie, come out for a while. I'm outside. A while later, Carrie came out. From her movements, it was obvious that she was on guard against Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao rolled down the window and looked at Carrie. Come here. Carrie stood before the car, still in that cautious and guarded posture. Come closer, can't you? Go ahead, Carrie said, dissatisfied. I can hear you. Chen Zhao's expression darkened. He grabbed Carrie's neck and pressed her down. It hurts. Carrie felt like her neck was about to break. The next moment, Chen Zhao pulled out a strand of Carrie's hair and pushed her away. Dell was shocked. Chen, what are you doing? Driving. Carrie looked in the direction of the car and started cursing. Chen Zhao ignored Carrie's cursing. What about now? Where are we going? Hospital, Chen Zhao said. Hospital? Are you sick? Wait, you're a doctor, right? Chen Zhao shook the hair in the bottle. Paternity test. That woman is your daughter? No, even if she's related to you. She's only your sister? She's not related to me, Chen Zhao said calmly. Then who is she related to? You'll know in the future. Before everything came to an end, Chen Zhao didn't want to tell anyone other than Li Qing about this. Okay, Dell didn't ask further, but from Chen Zhao's words, the woman might be related to someone he knew. After arriving at the hospital, Chen Zhao asked for help. It was an urgent paternity test. Originally, it would take at least 3 days. Under Chen Zhao's request, the center promised that they would give a result within 24 hours at most. Chen Zhao was an impatient person and hoped to get information as soon as possible. However, the DNA test couldn't come out immediately as Chen Zhao had hoped. After all, paternity tests required manual data analysis and comparison. Chen Zhao looked at the night view outside the window. The restaurant was on the rooftop of the building. There was only a roof for shelter. However, this also added to the restaurant style. Out of habit, Chen Zhao estimated the price of this restaurant. Putting aside the restaurant's brand, the restaurant's renovation, location, quality of employees, and other factors added together were estimated to be worth around $10 million. Don't think that every restaurant can be worth tens of millions of dollars. In fact, there were only about 10 restaurants in Los Angeles that were worth tens of millions of dollars. Of course, it wasn't like he had to buy every restaurant he saw. Even if Chen Zhao wanted to buy it, the owner might not necessarily sell it. Chen Zhao was confident that he was richer, but that didn't mean that he had more influence. Just then, he saw a familiar figure. No, it wasn't familiarity. To Chen Zhao, it was a deep impression. Vader, the god of light in Norse mythology. He was also the first person who could escape from Chen Zhao after using his full strength. Vader had his own girlfriend today. When he entered the restaurant with her, he also noticed Chen Zhao. The moment their eyes met, Vader's expression stiffened. It seemed that he was also very surprised to see Chen Zhao here. Vader whispered a few words to his female companion, who then walked over to the empty table. Vader walked toward Chen Zhao. Hi, Mr. Chen. Chen Zhao looked at Vader. Did you appear before me on purpose? Or is it a coincidence? Are you looking for me? A strange expression appeared on Vader's face. If you're looking for me, I suggest you kill everyone in your intelligence department. I actually don't feel anyone looking for me. Chen Zhao's face darkened. Fine. He didn't have an intelligence department at all. In fact, only Baithless Flame Worship and 23rd Blood Mary Scarlet Church had a complete intelligence network. Because they thought that Vader wasn't in Los Angeles, he should be in another area. Thus, there were almost no intelligence agents in Los Angeles. This was the so-called darkest place under the light. In fact, Vader was right under their noses. Chen, is he your friend? Dell asked. Not really. Chen Zhao glanced at Vader. Mr. Vader, how about we arrange a time to meet? Slightly hesitant, Vader said, I need to think about it. I can guarantee your safety and freedom. Chen Zhao said, give me your contact number. I'll get back to you after thinking about it. Vader wasn't worried that Chen Zhao would fight him here. Although they were all existences that surpassed the extreme, they all followed the rules. They definitely wouldn't fight in public like this. Fine. Chen Zhao gave Bader a name card with his private number. Glancing at Bader's girlfriend, who wasn't far away, he asked, "Is she the same as you?" "No, my new girlfriend." Smiling, Bader shrugged. "Okay, I need to go. Goodbye." After Bader returned to his girlfriend's side, Dell asked, "Who's that?" "How should I put it? We're not friends or enemies. We fought before, but he couldn't beat me and I couldn't kill him. Then we both tacitly lost interest in fighting." What's the relationship?" "Okay, let's not talk about him. How's Faith?" "She learned a few spells from her master," Dell said helplessly. "She's messed up the house. I plan to send her to kindergarten, but I'm worried that she'll be discovered using spells there." Faith was far more talented than Dell, but she was still too young. She was almost 4 years old now. This was also why Dell was conflicted. "Why don't I introduce a kindergarten to you? I've invested in it. It's run by a couple. They're the same kind of people as us. My children are in the kindergarten too. Even if Faith uses spells in the kindergarten, the couple will cover it up for her." "Really? That'd be best." Chen Zhao took out a name card and handed it to Dell. Dell finally smiled. It seemed that Faith's problem was troubling him too. "You can contact them tomorrow. Also, go to the kindergarten to see the environment and talk to the couple." 9 Heaven's Divine Emperor. Chapter 29:38. That night, Bader agreed to meet Chen Zhao, but it was only limited to Chen Zhao. No one else could come. Bader seemed to know. A few terrifying beings had been active in Los Angeles recently. Bader was probably panicking too. After all, even if he had an immortal body, it didn't mean he couldn't be defeated. Or rather, he couldn't be sealed. The strongest aspect of a human race was their sealing abilities. Since ancient times, countless terrifying beings had tried to overturn the world. However, only a small number of those terrifying existences were killed. Most of them had been stuffed into the sewers. The few that could come out had lost 70 to 80% of their power. Bader had been in the human world for a long time. He knew that there had always been top beings that could fight against gods. He also knew that almost every top-notch expert had a few sealing spells in their hands. Therefore, from ancient times until now, the devil incarnate was either killed or sealed. There was rarely a precedent of a top human being being killed. This was because the human race had mastered the almost shameless sealing technique. If they could win, they would fight. If they couldn't, they would act shamelessly. Actually, sealing spells weren't rare among the strong, but most of them used the strong to seal the weak or the same level. Humans, on the other hand, could use the weak to seal the strong. This was a headache for the powerful figures. Bader had agreed to meet Chen Zhao because he knew some of Chen Zhao's stories. He knew that Chen Zhao wasn't good at sealing spells. That was why he agreed. Of course, Bader and Chen Zhao weren't related, nor did they have any friendship. On the contrary, they had some small conflicts. They weren't big enemies, but they weren't friends either. There was a certain risk in meeting Chen Zhao. Thus, Chen Zhao guessed that Bader probably had his own requests. As for whether the encounter at the restaurant tonight was a coincidence or not, it didn't matter. As long as Bader had a request, it was fine. Then everything was fine. The next day, Chen Zhao arrived. It was the same restaurant as yesterday, but the restaurant hadn't opened yet. So, apart from the two of them, there were no other customers. Bader was very careful. First, he used his senses to confirm if there were any other people around. Once he sensed that there was an aura in the surroundings that made him feel uneasy, he would immediately flee. After confirming that everything was normal, Bader walked out with a smile. "Mr. Chen, I'm glad you can keep your appointment." Chen Zhao nodded and replied with a smile. "Sit down," he said. There was no host or guest here. After the two of them sat down, the waiter brought over a bottle of red wine and 2 goblets. "Are you familiar with the boss here?" "I'm the boss here," Bader said. "I've been out in the world for 100 years and have accumulated some wealth." Chen Zhao shrugged. He didn't mind. After all, even he had accumulated an extremely rich net worth in the past few years. Not to mention Bader, who had walked the human world for 100 years. If ordinary cultivators and spirit controllers were short of money, then it would be different. Then at their level. Basically, they would no longer be bound by money. Even if they were dead, there would be people willing to give them large amounts of money as offerings. He only hoped that when they were in trouble, he would pay some attention to them. Just like Jean Tierney, he had no money. But when he wanted money, he just had to say that he was short of money for online shopping. Then, a large wave of rich people would come up to him and lick his boots. I came to find you because I have a request. You agreed to meet me because you have a request too, right? Chun Zhao finally broached the main topic. Not long ago, one of your friends became a god. Based on my understanding of the Olympian gods, they had a huge flaw when they built their divine kingdom. Your friend must have the same problem now. You're looking for me because of her, right? Bader easily deduced why Chun Zhao was looking for him based on the information he knew. You're looking for me because of her, right? Chun Zhao nodded. There was nothing to deny. Since they were already on the negotiation table, there was no point in hiding anymore. However, Chun Zhao really didn't know much about Bader. So, he didn't know Bader's purpose. Then can you provide a perfect way to build a divine kingdom? Chun Zhao asked. Bader shook his head. The Olympians' method of building a divine kingdom has a huge flaw, but it's not completely unfixable. The Asir race's method fixes the flaw, but it's much weaker than the Olympians. So, in terms of combat power, the Olympians are actually much stronger than us. Bader paused and looked at Chun Zhao. You can ask your friend. If he's willing to accept our method of building a divine kingdom, then the deal is done. Which is better? There's no comparison. Let's put it this way. The Olympians' divine kingdoms have unparalleled combat power, but they're extremely unstable. After a big battle, they might need to be repaired. To repair the damage, they need fragments of the divine kingdom. So, the Olympians are destined to have fewer and fewer gods. If a new god wants to become a real god, they need fragments of the divine kingdom. A big battle also needs fragments of the divine kingdom. Where can we get so many fragments? Of course, it's fragments of the same kind or from other gods. This is an endless cycle. They're not suitable for continuous divine wars, but they also need to keep fighting for fragments of the divine kingdom. The Asir race's divine kingdoms are relatively more stable. They won't need to be repaired after a big battle, but the price is a divine war of the same level. In a one-on-one situation, it's almost impossible for us to fight the Olympians. Another advantage is that we don't need to use fragments of other gods' divine kingdoms to build. As long as we know the method, any young god can build their own divine kingdom. Chun Zhao looked at Bader. So what do you want? Ask your friend first and see if she accepts the deal. Then, we'll continue. How about you guys talk among yourselves? Chun Zhao asked. Bader shook his head. He didn't want to interact with other top humans besides Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao was strong, but he wasn't proficient in sealing. The other top humans might be weaker than Chun Zhao, but they all knew at least one sealing technique. Bader's immortal body wasn't afraid of Chun Zhao. No matter how strong Chun Zhao was, he couldn't kill him. The other people's seals could ignore his immortal body. So, interacting with Chun Zhao made him feel more at ease. Chapter 29:39. Chun Zhao saw Bader's determination. He didn't say anything else to express his sincerity. Instead, he picked up the phone and dialed 23rd Blood Mary's number. Blood Mary, I found the God of Light. He's willing to trade with us, but the Asir god's method of building a divine kingdom isn't perfect. Can I see him for a moment? He doesn't want to see you. Chun Zhao glanced at Bader and then said, Or, you could talk like this? Bader nodded and took the phone. I'm Bader, Asir God of Light. After a while, Bader ended the call with 23rd Blood Mary. The phone returned to Chun Zhao's hand. Chun Zhao continued talking to 23rd Blood Mary. You agree to the deal? You could decide the price, 23rd Blood Mary said. Ares, that sly old bastard, didn't tell the whole truth even at death's door. He didn't say that the Olympians' divine kingdom had such a huge flaw. It had to be repaired after every battle. Moreover, the repair required fragments of the divine kingdom. Obviously, the 23rd Blood Mary had planned to use Ares' divine kingdom to build her own divine kingdom. If the 23rd Blood Mary were to get into a fight with someone, the divine kingdom might be damaged as a result. Of course, from Ares' point of view, There was nothing wrong with him doing this. But from Chun Zhao's point of view, this was clearly an unacceptable lie. So, they had to settle the score later. But before that, they had to solve 23rd Blood Mary's problem. After hanging up, Chun Zhao looked at Bader. Okay, tell me your request. Right now, it was only a one-sided agreement. Bader hadn't said his request yet. If Chun Zhao's group couldn't give him what Bader needed, then the deal couldn't be reached. Bader looked at Chun Zhao with a smile. Then he pushed a contract in black and white before Chun Zhao. This is our religious contract. If you sign it, I can get the money first. Chun Zhao looked at Bader in disdain. Do you think I'm stupid? If he signed the contract, Chun Zhao wouldn't even have a place to cry if Bader made any unreasonable requests. Let's be more direct, Chun Zhao said. Tell me what you want. If you have it, we'll trade. If not, we'll call it a day. Bader smiled awkwardly. He was just trying his luck. If Chun Zhao really fell for it, it would be a big win. Bader was about to speak when Chun Zhao suddenly interrupted. You'd better weigh the price first before making your own request. While the Asgard divine race's method of building a divine kingdom is precious, it's not unique, right? Moreover, this method is only a substitute. If you plan to get rich this way, you'd better stop the transaction now. Bader was about to speak when Chun Zhao suddenly interrupted him. My request is very simple. Help me obtain the soul of Asgard. What is it? The soul of Asgard. The Asgard from the Women's Federation movie? Of course it's not some alien race. Before becoming a god, the Asgard gods were all humans. Of course, it's a different story for a god's descendant like me. Bader said, Asgard is an alternate dimension created by the Aesir gods for generations. In your human understanding, it can be said to be the realm of gods. Then what's the soul of Asgard? It's Odin's soul. As the king of the Aesir gods, Odin inherited the throne of Asgard and also became the soul of Asgard. I still don't understand. What exactly is it? A human soul? Simply put, Asgard is a place, and Odin is a person or a god. You can think of Asgard as Odin's territory, his private territory, and this territory, which is Asgard, can be given or inherited. You want the soul of Asgard or Odin because you want to inherit Asgard? Yes, but you don't have to worry. Odin has already fallen, but his soul is bound to Asgard, so it still exists. He doesn't have a consciousness and isn't as powerful as when he was alive. No matter what you say, it's hard for you to convince me to fight against the king of gods in Norse mythology with a mere method of building a divine kingdom. Chun Zhao looked at Balder meaningfully. Also, he's your father, right? Odin's relationship with me isn't important. I'm not close to him either. After all, my bloodline is more like my mother's, the Vanir gods, Bader said disapprovingly. Odin isn't as powerful as you think. Plus, he's only a remnant soul now. If not for Asgard's protection, he would have disappeared completely long ago. No, the name Odin has already determined the unfairness of this deal. Chun Zhao wouldn't believe Bader's words. Bader himself was already so difficult to deal with. As the king of gods, Odin definitely wasn't weak either. Otherwise, Bader would have done it himself. Would he still need external help? What else do you want? Bader asked. I don't know, like Thor's hammer or something. Hearing Chun Zhao's words, Bader was so angry that he almost laughed. Mjolnir is the symbol of Asgard's heir. Only someone with the qualifications and potential of a king can lift the hammer. So, even if it's placed before you, you won't be able to lift it. Of course, the main problem is that if I can take out Mjolnir, why would I need you? I'll just place the hammer before Odin's soul. So, I'll take the risk to help you get Odin's soul and the entire divine realm. What can I get? There are many, many treasures in Odin's treasury, some of which are beyond your imagination. If you succeed, I can give you a chance to pick any three of them. Chun Zhao narrowed his eyes and looked at Bader. I need help. I can't do it alone. Also, I want all of us to have 3 chances. Chun Zhao didn't trust Bader, so he had to be wary of Bader's sneak attacks. If he was alone, Chun Zhao couldn't guarantee that Bader wouldn't sneak attack him after he dealt with Odin's soul. So, Chun Zhao was also looking for a reliable comrade. Impossible. There are many treasures in Odin's treasury, but not as many as you think. I'll feel heartache if I give away one more. 3 is already my limit. Okay, looks like our negotiation has failed. Cancel the deal. Chapter 2940. Wait a minute. 4. I'll give you 4 chances to choose your treasures. You should know that the treasures in Odin's collection are at least divine artifacts. Chun Zhao shook his head with a smile. The number of choices wasn't important. The key was that he did not trust Bader. To go to Asgard alone with Bader. They even wanted to go against their god king. Chun Zhao would have to be crazy to accept this mission. In particular, Bader did not allow him to bring any companions. No matter how he looked at it, it looked like Balder was planning to set him up. Bader frowned at him. Chun Zhao, on the other hand, was extremely relaxed. In any case, the real deal was with the 23rd generation Blood Mary. Besides, she didn't really need the Ace of Divine race's method. The Olympians' method of building a divine kingdom was not entirely impossible. There was no doubt that Bader was looking for him because of his battle prowess. This was what he was most confident about. Even if Bader searched the entire world, he probably wouldn't be able to find another person who could compare to Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao felt that it was illogical for Bader to reject his request. Logically speaking, the more helpers he had, the higher his chances of success would be. Shouldn't Bader be happier? But he actually rejected Chun Zhao's request because he was stingy about treasures that didn't even belong to him. Wasn't this too illogical? Therefore, Chun Zhao couldn't help but guess that Balder's intentions weren't as simple as he'd said. By the way, one last question. What problem? Is there really a rainbow bridge in Asgard? No, Bader replied with a black face. Okay, thank you for the meal. I hope I'll treat you next time. Chun Zhao stood up, planning to leave. Mr. Chun, why don't you reconsider? All right, I'll think about it when I get back. Then he turned and left. Bader watched Chun Zhao's back as he left. Of course, he was furious and disappointed, no matter how amiable and approachable he usually seemed. But he was still a god, a high and mighty god. Being rejected by a mortal was indeed an affront to his dignity. Of course, Chun Zhao's power made him helpless. She was furious, but she couldn't do anything to him. It was a terrible feeling. Chun Zhao often gave others this feeling of helplessness. After Chun Zhao left, he went to meet up with the other 3. Seeing Chun Zhao, the 23rd Blood Mary immediately went up and asked impatiently, "What do you think? Is the deal complete?" Chun Zhao looked at the 23rd Blood Mary in her infant form. She floated in the air, looking like something out of a supernatural movie. Chun Zhao shook his head and told him the whole story. "What do you think?" "There's a problem here," Zhang Tianyi said. "The problem is very big." Bifla also said, "Under normal circumstances, even if this is a request, even if he has other thoughts, he shouldn't have rejected it so obviously. It's so obvious that others can immediately sense the problem. So, he's either playing hard to get, or after rejecting a request, he'll raise the conditions slightly later." Although the 23rd Blood Mary was disappointed, she understood that there was a huge problem with Bader's teachings. The 23rd generation Blood Mary frowned and said, "No matter what, you have to stick to your request. The 3 of us must go with you. It's a pity that we don't have enough information. We can't figure out what the God of Light's goal is." The 4 guessed that Bader's goal wasn't simple. After all, it was a very obvious choice. Bader's ultimate goal was Asgard. Logically speaking, as long as he could achieve his goal, he shouldn't reject any conditions within a certain range. He shouldn't bargain with Chun Zhao. At least, Chun Zhao felt that his request wasn't too much. He didn't ask Bader to give him half of Asgard after the deal was done. If he asked for a few more items from Odin's collection, it would hurt Bader's heart. That could only mean that Bader was too insincere. Or rather, Bader's goal wasn't that simple. Chun Zhao looked at the 23rd Blood Mary. "What's your plan?" In the twilight of the gods, Odin was actually bitten to death by the demon wolf Fenrir. Perhaps the legend isn't completely true, but it definitely represents a part of the truth. I've fought with the demon wolf Fenrir. Perhaps it wasn't its full power, but it definitely wasn't at a hopeless level. I think that even at its peak, I can still beat it. From this, we can deduce that Odin, the king of the gods, is actually pitifully weak. At least, none of the 4 of us will lose to him. The 23rd Blood Mary continued. From this, We can see that while the Asgard Divine Kingdom is stable, its combat ability is pitifully low. It feels like a small world for a normal cultivator who reaches the Shang-Qing state, mediocre and weak. So, even if this deal is completed and I get the method to build the Asgard Divine Kingdom, I still need to reconsider. Chen Zhao nodded. Indeed, even someone as strong as the 23rd Blood Mary wouldn't be able to accept becoming mediocre all of a sudden. Those who stood at the top of the pyramid would definitely not be able to accept falling down one day. The 23rd Blood Mary was like this, and so was Chen Zhao. But even without the Divine Kingdom, it's best if Bader's deal can continue. Find Asgard and the Divine Realm in Norse mythology. Perhaps there'll be some unexpected rewards. The 23rd Blood Mary's eyes shone with a fanatical light. Chen Zhao, Zhang Tianyi, and Bifla all revealed dangerous gazes. Bader might have been up to no good at the start of the deal, but they weren't good people either. If Bader had the intention of tricking Chen Zhao, then he'd definitely found the wrong target. As long as you're strong enough, you don't have to be afraid of anyone tricking you, the 23rd Blood Mary said. Without a doubt, Chen Zhao definitely had the right to say this now, because he was now the most powerful existence in the world. Of course, he wasn't strong enough to face all schemes, but at least he was strong enough to defeat any enemy. Chapter 2941. Hey Chun, the results are out. Well, what's the result? Yes, they are indeed related by blood. They should be close relatives within 3 generations. The accuracy is 99.5% for said. Do you want to come get the test report? I'll go get it later. By the way, is the identification expert in your hospital here? His schedule is tight, but if it's you, he should be happy to meet you. Not only was Chen Zhao an honorary doctor, but he was also one of the shareholders. No doctor in the hospital would refuse to meet Chen Zhao. Before going to the hospital, he went to the airport first. Soon, Li Qing and Ethan came out of the airport. Ethan didn't look too good. He also learned the reason yesterday, although he was happy that Li Qing was able to find her family. But he had ruined the holiday. Chen Zhao, is there any news from the hospital? Li Qing asked anxiously. Okay, let's talk in the car, Chen Zhao said. After the two got in, Chen Zhao started the car and glanced at Li Qing in the back seat. Big Sister Qing, the hospital has already given the results of the test. The DNA comparison has confirmed that he is a close relative within 3 generations. The accuracy is 99.5%. Hearing that, Li Qing was so excited that she almost fainted. I've made an appointment with an expert. I'll go to the hospital to get the DNA comparison report and talk to the expert. Okay. Where's my granddaughter now? She's working in my cafeteria now, Chen Zhao said. Li Qing arrived at the hospital with anticipation and uneasiness in her heart and met the expert. This was because there was a step in DNA identification that required manual comparison and analysis. Therefore, appraisal experts would analyze the computer comparison results at this step. The accuracy of the computer comparison was 99.5%. In fact, the accuracy of the appraisal experts was much higher than this figure. Of course, an appraisal expert would not tell you that it was 100% accurate. In fact, the appraisal result was infinitely close to 100%. Li Qing was so excited that tears streamed down her cheeks. Whether it was the East or the West, there would always be an indescribable feeling towards blood relatives. It was a feeling quite different from love, but more warm and soothing. This was especially true for Li Qing. Chen Zhao, I want to see her. I'll take you there. The car stopped outside the cafeteria. Li Qing's eyes were hazy as she silently looked at Carrie in the restaurant. Li, aren't you going to talk to her? Tell her who you are, Ethan urged. I'm not ready yet. Li Qing hesitated. What's there to hesitate about? She's your granddaughter. No. Let me think again. Chen Zhao, is she doing well? Chen Zhao hesitated for a moment before answering. As far as I know, her life isn't very good. This is what I found out yesterday. It's not very comprehensive. Li Qing took the information from Chen Zhao. This made her feel even more disappointed and guilty. Carrie's mother had passed away in an accident when she was 5 years old. In the past, Carrie had spent most of her time in the orphanage. Another year was spent in juvenile detention for burglary. Ever since Chen Zhao picked Li Qing up from the airport, she hadn't stopped crying. Suddenly, Li Qing seemed to sense something. Chen Zhao. Did she also come into contact with the supernatural world? Her great-grandmother came into contact with her. Now, she's followed by a thing called Wu. Li Qing's brows relaxed. The divine beast Wu? That was her father's guardian beast. The 100 Beast Steel is the holy artifact of the Maoshan sect, but it's always been under the control of the Qingyi sect. Because they all came from the same source, there were many things that couldn't be clearly distinguished. Chen Zhao, can I ask you something? Auntie Li, please. Be your master. Chen Zhao's teeth hurt. You've already discussed this, right? Chen Zhao didn't believe in fate, but this was what Sage Qingping had told him. He'd said that Carrie was destined to be his disciple. If someone else had made this request, Chen Zhao wouldn't have agreed. But it was Li Qing who'd made it. Okay. Chen Zhao's answer was simple and direct. Annie Li, my understanding of spells might not be as deep as yours. What I have might not be suitable for her either. Can't you teach her yourself? She can't join the Qingyi sect, and I can't let her join the Mao Mountain either. I've had enough of the mutual deceit of these sections. The bigger the sect, the more tragic the fights. My whole family died in the fights within the sect. I don't want her to be the next victim. Li Qing actually didn't want Chen Zhao to be Carrie's master. She wanted him to be her protector. The only person Li Qing could trust and had the ability to protect Carrie was Chen Zhao. So, she could only beg Chen Zhao. Let's go in and eat. Also, Dr. Chen Zhao said. Li Qing hesitated and hesitated again. Let's go. Ethan said. I'm hungry too. Plus, this is Chen's restaurant. It'll be a waste if we don't eat. After entering the restaurant, they found a place and sat down. The waiter immediately came over. Boss, do you need my service? Go and call Carrie over, Chen Zhao said. Carrie walked over to Chen Zhao, annoyed. Boss, these two are my friends. Ask them what they need. Boss, this is a buffet restaurant. Chen Zhao glared at Carrie. Carrie immediately gave in. He looked at Li Qing. Madam, do you need help? No. Thank you, Li Qing said, holding back the urge to cry. Sir, I don't need it. I'll get it myself. Go and get another set of cutlery. Come and sit, Chen Zhao said in a commanding tone. Boss, I've eaten. If you don't listen, you might not eat for the next 3 days. Carrie was helpless. She obediently followed Chen Zhao's request and sat down at the table. Carrie felt that it was a bit strange. The Asian woman seemed to be staring at her. Madam, is there a problem? No, nothing. How long have you been in contact with those things? Those things? Oh, Carrie immediately realized that the woman was also a kindred spirit. She discovered her uniqueness, so she kept staring at her. Just a few days. Have you seen an evil spirit before? Yes. I was scared the first time, Carrie said. Were you scared the first time you saw it? Yes, Li Qing said, pointing at Chen Zhao. Anyone would be scared the first time, including him. Annie Li, did I tell you about my first encounter with an evil spirit? Chapter 2942. Li Qing and Carrie seemed to get along well. Jollywen's saliva flew everywhere as she spoke, and Li Qing looked at her with a gaze full of enthusiasm. Don't you want to eat something? Oh, okay. Waiter, bring some food over. The waiter, do you have a boyfriend? No. 2 years ago, there was a guy who chased after me. He was a gangster from my place. Because I rejected him, he brought people to block my door. In the end, I chased him away with my hunting gun. After that, no one else dared to pursue me. Carrie proudly recounted her glorious history. Li Qing nodded with a smile and glanced at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao nodded slightly, indicating that he got it. He already called Li Qing sister, and now he'd agreed to be Carrie's master. Of course, he couldn't reject this small favor. This is my contact number. You can contact me if you need anything in the future. Can I also find you if I have magic problems? There's someone stronger than me here, Li Qing said. Maybe the strongest. Him? Carrie asked, pointing at Ethan. No, him, Ethan said with a dark expression. He's been eating the whole time. Why do you think I'm the strongest? Did I suddenly have an aura too? Carrie looked at Chen Zhao in disdain. Because of her first impression, Carrie didn't like Chun Zhao at all. Of course, Chun Zhao didn't have a good impression of Carrie either. Chun Zhao saw that the grandfather and grandson were chatting happily, so he didn't interrupt. Carrie was also very talkative. Li Qing was a good listener most of the time. "Where do you live now?" Carrie told him an address. Just then, Ethan frowned. "That's not a good place. You should find another place. First, you have to have money," Carrie said, glancing at Chun Zhao. "First, you have to pay back the money you owe me." Li Qing didn't say anything. Right now, Chun Zhao was Carrie's master. Therefore, he had the most right to speak. After all, they were master and disciple in a Chinese sect, not teacher and student. When a disciple had a master, the master was the greatest. Of course, Carrie hadn't become his disciple yet. But was that important? Carrie was off work. Perhaps the manager thought that Chun Zhao was related to Carrie. Therefore, he was still polite to her. He didn't give her any excessive work assignments either. So, after the restaurant's opening hours ended, Carrie was released. Zhao Liwen didn't like Chun Zhao. However, she felt that using Chun Zhao's identity to make things easier for herself was not a bad idea. Just as she was about to flag down a taxi, a business car suddenly stopped in front of her. "Miss Carrie, please get in." "Who are you?" Zhao Liwen realized that she did not recognize the people in the car. Everyone in the car was wearing black suits and sunglasses. Zhao Liwen speculated maliciously. Driving in the middle of the night with sunglasses on, was he not afraid of getting into an accident? "We're your kind." "Let me introduce myself. I'm Brits." "Same kind? I don't understand what you're saying." "Miss Carrie, we don't have any bad intentions. We're an organization, a spiritualist organization. We're here to invite you to join us. Of course, it's voluntary, so we want you to get to know our companions. Whether you accept our invitation or not, there's no harm in knowing a few of your kind, right?" Zhao Liwen thought for a moment. "How do you know about me? In the past few days, you've destroyed at least 3 evil spirits every night. It's hard not to attract our attention with such frequent movements." Zhao Liwen was a bit hesitant, so Brits continued. "Miss Carrie, to be honest, there's nothing worth lying to you. You're still very weak right now. You've probably just awakened. Do you have a guide? If not, your future achievements will be very limited, and we have investigated your information. You are very poor, so poor that you can't even afford a second-hand car. So, with your current terrible situation, do you think there's a need to worry about a situation worse than this?" "You're right." Zhao Liwen was also a tomboy. After thinking for a moment, she still got in the car. However, Zhao Liwen was still vigilant. She was ready to summon Shogo at any moment. The car drove further and further into a remote area, which made Zhao Liwen feel a little scared. But then, the car drove to the front of a mountain. The mountain slowly opened up, just like a mysterious and modern base in a sci-fi movie. The car then drove into the opened entrance of the mountain. Zhao Liwen then saw an underground base that gave off a technological feeling. This base hidden inside the mountain was the new base of the psionic team. This base had more than 100 official members of the psionic team and around 1,000 logistics team. There were also all kinds of machinery, or a mixture of machinery and magic. Zhao Liwen had already forgotten about the danger. She was full of curiosity about everything here. It was like Granny Lu entering the Grandview Garden. Along the way, Brits gave a brief introduction about the psionic team. Of course, the most important thing was the psionic team's abundant funding. Looking at the surrounding base, one could see how abundant the psionic team's capital was, and how powerful the psionic team was. Zhao Liwen was tempted. However, the biggest problem had yet to be solved. Brits had yet to get to the most important problem, the problem of personal benefits. Zhao Liwen was a little distracted after listening to Brits's boast. She had been waiting for Brits to get to the point. However, Brits was still blabbering on and on. He had no intention of getting to the point. "Mr. Brits, what about my benefits? Our psionic team is a big family, but we still have a strict and clear division of ranks, as well as a reward system for completing missions. In other words, the level you are at, the difficulty you complete, and the number of missions you complete are all clearly divided. What kind of salary can I get at a rank like mine? What kind of monsters can you deal with at the moment?" Brits asked. Monsters? I've only dealt with evil spirits. What kind of monsters are you talking about? Jolly-Wen asked, a little scared. Miss Jolly-Wen, I'm afraid you can only carry out the lowest F-rank missions, and the reward for F-rank missions is at most $100 per mission. What? Why so little? I've been doing more than that myself. Last time, a little girl offered $500. You're such a big organization, and you're only offering $100? Chapter 2943. Britz could already feel the distrust in Carrie's eyes. Her eyes seemed to be saying, "Are you treating me like a laborer or a fool?" Britz had no choice. The psionic team was indeed large. However, most of the funds were still invested in the base and the senior members. F-level missions were $100, E-level missions were $500, D-level missions were $2,000, C-level missions were $8,000, B-level missions were $50,000, and A-level missions were $300,000. S-level missions were $3 million. This was how the psionic team divided the rewards for different levels of missions. The rewards for low-level missions were generally lower than the market price, while the rewards for high-level missions were generally higher. They were using the money saved from low-level missions to subsidize high-level missions. In fact, giving such a high reward for high-level missions was also to attract strong people to join their psionic team. Of course, Britz could not say that her current reward was higher than those experts. He looked at Carrie seriously. Right now, you are not just carrying out a mission. What you need is to strengthen yourself, and we can provide you with help and resources in this regard. Once your strength is increased, you won't have to worry about why low-level missions have such low rewards. The rewards for high-level missions will definitely be so rich that you can't imagine it. Of course, the rewards for high-level missions were indeed very tempting. But the key problem was that high-level missions were also very difficult. From C-level onwards, it basically required teamwork. Last month, for example, they had completed an A-level mission for B-level missions and several missions below B-level. They had indeed accepted an S-level mission, but it had ended in failure. Four teams had carried out an S-level mission together, but in the end, two teams had been completely wiped out, one team had been half-crippled, and one team had been heavily injured. Even the employer had died because the mission had failed. This also made the higher-ups of the psionic team realize that their team was really not strong enough. They had received information that their old rival, the Supernatural Society. Last month, they had received 3 S-level missions. All of them had been carried out as individual teams, and all of them had been completed successfully. One of them had been able to easily complete S-level and above missions. The other had tried their best to complete S-level missions, but they had all ended in failure. From this, the difference in strength between the two organizations could be clearly felt. Of course, in the eyes of the higher-ups of the psionic team, this was because they had a lot of people and their strength was mixed. There was also a classification of strength that wasn't very accurate. Some looked strong, but in reality, their combat strength was average, and they were ranked very high. As for those who hid their strength, or those who could only display their strength in actual combat, their strength was ranked at a lower level. However, after several rounds of rescreening and combat strength assessment, the combat strength of the team had increased significantly. Of course, there was a shortage of low-level members. That was why the psionic team started recruiting on a large scale. No matter how strong the spiritualist was, he had to recruit him first. As for strength, battle prowess, and potential, they would have to be screened through actual combat missions. Those who did not have potential or were not strong enough were likely to die in the first few missions or quit. Britz had not sought Carrie out because she was strong or because he saw potential in her. It was only because she was a spiritualist. That was all. Britz hoped that Carrie would grow up. But it didn't matter if he didn't grow up. After all, there were plenty of candidates. In any case, it was like a great wave washing away the sand. In the end, all that was left was real gold. Carrie was in a dilemma. She had experienced the ups and downs of her life in the past few days. First, she had obtained supernatural power. Then, her job in life had changed greatly. Through supernatural power, she had earned a lot of money. But then, she had met Chen Zhao. That road-blocking ghost. She had fallen. Now, she was faced with the same choice. As long as she joined the organization, she could get rid of that road-blocking ghost. She felt that no matter how strong Chen Zhao was, he couldn't be stronger than a large organization like the Psionic Team. Therefore, the Psionic Team would definitely be able to help her solve Chen Zhao's problem. According to Brits, she definitely didn't have enough strength right now to earn a lot of money. How long do you think I'll need to earn a lot of money? That depends on your potential. I think you have a lot of potential, but your growth isn't up to me. Based on my experience, you'll need at least a year to train. Hearing Brits' words, Carrie lowered her head and pondered in silence. What do you think? I think it's doable. Joining the organization can at least help you get rid of that man. A year's time is enough for you to grow to a level that everyone can only look up to. By then, even if that man appears again, you'll have enough strength to fight him. No, you'll be able to defeat him easily. Okay, I'll join the Psionic Team. Do I need to sign a contract? A contract. The demon will be the witness. Brits took out a goatskin contract and handed it to Carrie. Bite your finger and leave a fingerprint. Carrie was a bit repulsed by this obviously evil contract, but Yu said in her mind, don't worry. A low-level contract like this doesn't have much binding power. Even if you break it, the demon won't be very strong. With his strength, he can deal with it in minutes. The next day, Chen Zhao enjoyed his free lunch break. Just then a call came in. It was the manager of the buffet. Boss, your call. Portia handed the phone to Chen Zhao. Who is it? Boss, I'm Sig's manager, Lai Deli. Yes, what's up? Boss, it seems that Miss Carrie resigned today. Resigned? She resigned? Chen Zhao's eyelids twitched. Is she still in the shop? No, she just called me. Okay, I got it. Chen Zhao took a deep breath and suppressed his irritation. Then he dialed Carrie's number. Miss Carrie, you'd better explain the reason for your resignation. Or do you already have enough money to compensate for the losses you caused? Fuck. Asterisk Shoal, I'm not afraid of you anymore. As for your extortion, I don't care. I'm warning you. I've already joined a powerful organization. You can't threaten me. Oh, powerful organization? Which one? Psionic Team. If you know what's good for you, don't mess with me anymore. The Psionic Team is stronger than you can imagine. Miss Carrie, I admire your courage, but this isn't over yet. Remember, no one can refuse to pay me back the money they owe me. No one. Even if you join the Vatican, you can't escape from my debt collection. Chapter 2944. Night. In the surveillance room of the Psionic Team HQ, Morgan and Michael were playing games on their phones during working hours. Just one round. Morgan cursed in anger. Fuck. Michael, when did your skills become so good? You've never won a round before. Hee. I found that lucky girl today and got her to bless me. You're cheating. How did you do it? Morgan was both angry and curious. The official members were all arrogant. Usually, they didn't even look at the people from the logistics department. How did Michael get an official member to bless him? Just then, Michael's attention shifted to the surveillance screen. Hey, don't change the topic. Your trick doesn't work. Tell me, how did you get that lucky girl to bless you? Michael ignored Morgan's question. Pointing at the screen, he said, Look, there's someone there. He's not one of us. Morgan didn't believe it. It was deep in the forest and it was nighttime. Other than the Psionic Team, who else would come here? Wouldn't they be eaten by a cat on the way? There's really someone. Damn, this idiot. He's so troublesome, Michael said in annoyance. Morgan couldn't do anything. He could only put down the game and go out with Michael. Occasionally, someone would approach the Psionic Team HQ recklessly. Now and then, they needed to chase these unwelcome guests away. The two drove a Hummer out of a secret tunnel. When the car stopped before the person, they realized that it was an Asian. Hey kid, this isn't a place you should be, Michael yelled. Fuck off, get out of my sight, or I'll teach you a lesson. Chen Zhao looked up at the two in the Hummer. You should wear your seatbelts. Fuck, what are you talking about? There's no traffic police here to control us. No, I'm serious. If there's a car accident, the seatbelts can ensure your safety. At least you won't die. Just then, Morgan took out his electric baton. Kid, do you know what this is? If you don't fuck off, I'm going to fuck your butt with this. Morgan, what? Can't you see that I almost scared this kid to the point of pissing his ass? Morgan, our car. Michael's voice was trembling. Morgan suddenly felt that the car was shaking slightly. Looking down, the Hummer seemed to be floating. What's going on? The two suddenly realized something and looked at Chen Zhao in fear. They clearly remembered that a month ago, there was an idiot who provoked the official members of the psionic team. Then, he lay in the ICU for half a month. Obviously, the two of them had made the same mistake. No matter where this guy came from, the result would be the same. Please fasten your seatbelts. You have 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7. Terrified, the two hurriedly fastened their seatbelts. Accompanied by the two men's terrified cries, the car was suddenly thrown out. It whizzed towards a mountain wall. An ear-piercing alarm suddenly rang in the training room. Jolly Win stopped her practice and pushed open the door to the training room. He discovered that the doors to the other training rooms were also open, and the official members were all running out. Carrie stopped Yemen, whom she had just met today. Iman was the same as her, a newcomer who had just joined. She had joined 2 weeks earlier than Carrie. The two women were newcomers, so they got along well. There's an enemy invasion. This is an enemy invasion alert. Everyone who stays in the base must go and fight. Enemy invasion? Why would there be an enemy invasion? Could it be some evil organization? I don't know, but most of the time, it's a false alarm. Of course, there was an enemy invasion alert on the first day I came, but it was a guy who recommended himself. He wanted to show his power, so he purposely appeared as an attack. It caused quite a misunderstanding. It's not a big problem, Iman said. This is the headquarters of the psionic team. There are more than 100 official members here, and most of them are much stronger than us. No idiot would really attack the headquarters. Okay, hearing Iman's words, Carrie felt much more at ease. But the alarm is still there. Everyone has to rush to the scene as soon as possible. Let's go. Carrie nodded, and the two of them ran towards the exit. At the exit, Carrie's pupils constricted. The person surrounded by the psionic team was none other than Chen Zhao. Carrie shrunk her head subconsciously, as if she was afraid that Chen Zhao would see her. All the members of the psionic team glared at Chen Zhao aggressively. Clearly, no one was happy about the arrival of this uninvited guest. After all, most of the members were already asleep at this time. If not for this guy, they would be asleep already. Stop. All of you stop. Just then, Britz's hurried shout came from the rear. Britz quickly ran to the scene. When he saw Chen Zhao, Britz felt terrible. Mr. Chen, I think you need to give me an explanation. Why did you attack our psionic team for no reason? Chen Zhao had already attacked once, so Britz knew Chen Zhao's power very well. The last attack had almost broken the psionic team's backbone. It wasn't easy for the psionic team to rise from the ashes and stand up again. He didn't want this to happen again. The psionic team's rebirth made them stronger. But it wasn't enough to challenge Chen Zhao. Therefore, he had to avoid conflict. He couldn't let Chen Zhao use the same trick again and defeat the psionic team by himself. If the psionic team suffered the same setback again, they might not be able to recover. I'm here to ask for someone. Chen Zhao's gaze swept across the psionic team members. In the end, his eyes locked onto the cowering Carrie hiding at the back. What? You still don't want to come out? Miss Carrie. Britz was surprised. What was going on? Did Carrie and Chen Zhao know each other? Carrie swallowed and mustered her courage to stand out. She didn't expect Chen Zhao to attack the psionic team's headquarters so brazenly right after she said that. You asterisk shoal, do you think I'm afraid of you? I'm not your dog anymore. Chen Zhao was still as arrogant as ever. Who gave you the courage? Or did someone teach you to say that? Is it the psionic team? Chapter 2945. That's right. I don't need to be afraid of you anymore, Carrie said, mustering her courage. She wasn't stupid. If she wanted to protect herself, she could only drag the team down with her. Blitz didn't feel good at all. What Jolly Win had said had put them in a difficult position. He didn't expect that he'd pulled a newcomer into the team. He didn't expect that the newcomer would be a ticking time bomb. Mr. Chen, I don't know what conflict you have with Carrie, but I hope that you can forget about it for my sake. Blitz's tone softened. It seemed like he was compromising. Chen Zhao smiled faintly. Of course. For your sake. I can write it off. But I can't just write off a debt, right? That's right. That's right. How much does she owe you? $1 billion, Chun Zhao said matter-of-factly. Blitz's expression froze. How much did you say? 1 billion. There was an uproar. Carrie's eyes widened. The next moment, Carrie was furious. You liar. When did I owe you $1 billion? At most 100,000. It was 100,000, but because of what you said, I've decided to raise it to 1 billion. Blitz's face was filled with anger. Mr. Chun, you're making things difficult for me. An ordinary member of the team dares to offend me? I have to suspect that you guys ordered her to do this, or that you're ready for war. Blitz didn't know what Carrie had said to Chen Zhao, but it definitely wasn't anything good. At this moment, Blitz was filled with regret. Why'd he drag Carrie into the psionic team? He was asking for trouble. But now, she was a member of the team. He wanted to give up on Carrie, but there were so many members here. If he said that he was going to give up on Carrie now, the psionic team would instantly fall apart. Mr. Chun, on behalf of the team, I'm willing to pay $1 million to stop this. What do you think? Nothing. Chun Zhao rejected Blitz directly. Mr. Blitz, there's so many of us. Why should we be afraid of him? Yeah. Since he dares to cause trouble in our headquarters alone, he should be prepared to be taught a lesson. Blitz was frustrated. If possible, he wouldn't mind beating Chun Zhao up. But the key problem was that they couldn't beat him. Chun Zhao was too powerful. Just then, Vestana and Toddy Belster walked out. Chun Zhao sensed an unusual aura for Vestana. Powerful. It was extremely powerful. Last time, he knew that Vestana was practicing some kind of forbidden secret art. It seemed that the forbidden secret technique had succeeded. Mr. Chun. Vestana stared at Chun Zhao. There was a hint of eagerness in her eyes. Miss Vestana, you seem to have changed a lot. It's really surprising. I didn't expect that weak girl to have grown to such heights. Indeed, even I am surprised. The corner of Vestana's mouth curled up into a smile. I know what happened. Why don't we make a bet? What kind of bet? Mr. Torty and I will join hands to fight you. As a senior, you shouldn't mind us joining hands, right? If you win, you can take him away. Chen Zhao was obviously happy to accept. He didn't plan on defeating the psionic team right now anyway. But what if Mr. Chen loses? If I lose, I don't think you'll let me go, so it's meaningless for me to take out any chips now. Come, let me see how you've changed. In fact, not long ago, Toddy Belster had told him that Vestana's secret technique was close to succeeding. Mr. Torty, Vestana said in a low voice. Cover me. Of course, happy to help. Toddy Belster lifted a hand and a magic array appeared on the ground. Two huge terror demons crawled out of the magic formation and charged at Chen Zhao. The terror demons' gigantic bodies and the terrifying aura they exuded caused most spiritualists to feel shocked and terrified. They all knew that Toddy Belster was the high-level consultant of the psionic team. He was second only to Chun Zhao and above everyone else. As for exactly how strong he was, no one could say for sure. Only some of the older members knew that Toddy Belster's strength was said to be above everyone else. Now that they saw the two terror demons, they more or less understood how terrifying he was. However, the older members knew that this was only the tip of the iceberg of Toddy Belster's true strength. Chen Zhao lifted his right arm and pressed it down slightly. The two terrifying terror demons were pressed to the ground in an instant. The ground had caved in to form two pits, and two unlucky terror demons were struggling in the pits. Chen Zhao stomped and raised his fist, charging at Toddy Belster. Just then, Vestana moved too. She was extremely fast. Her arm seemed to be flowing with lava. Flames flickered in her veins, emitting scorching heat. Bang! The two fists met. Chun Zhao stood where he was, and Vestana didn't retreat either. Vestana laughed. I used to think that Mr. Chen's fist was unstoppable, but now I realize that I overestimated you. Chen Zhao laughed too. The next moment, he suddenly exerted force. Bang! Before Vestana could show any more emotions, her body was already smashed into the mountain wall. The mountain wall was smashed into pieces, burying Vestana. Looks like you're hallucinating, Chun Zhao said calmly. Chen Zhao said calmly. Toddy Belster hurriedly stepped back. Stop, stop, stop. I surrender, Toddy said hurriedly. I don't like close combat. Even if he was acting, he didn't want to be beaten up in public. Out of everyone present, he was the only one who knew how terrifying Chen Zhao was. His ability to summon demons was given to him by Chen Zhao. Therefore, he had no chance of winning against Chen Zhao, especially since he was a survivor of the Demon Island battle. He knew that Chen Zhao's terror had no limit. Boom! Just then, Vestana lifted the gravel covering her body. She returned to the battlefield aggressively. It seemed that she hadn't completely accepted her defeat. Ms. Vestana, that's enough. Stop, Toddy Belster said. Toddy Belster said at the right time. You are not perfect enough now. It is not rational to challenge him with your imperfections. I didn't lose, Vestana said, gritting her teeth. Miss Vestana, you've lost. Britt could also see that Chen Zhao was overwhelming. At least, it was still too early for Vestana to face Chen Zhao. Chapter 2946. The moment the fists clashed, Vestana had already felt that she had lost. However, she couldn't back down now. She just made such an arrogant statement, yet she was taken away by Chen Zhao. She felt embarrassed. She'd had a sliver of hope. Her forbidden secret technique wasn't complete yet, but it was 80% complete. Her current combat strength could be said to be very terrifying. So, she felt that even if she couldn't beat Chen Zhao, she could at least fight back. The moment the fists clashed, she was overjoyed. She felt that Chen Zhao's power was only SOSO. But the next moment, Chen Zhao crushed her hopes. It was still that unparalleled power, so strong that it was terrifying. But this time, Vestana quickly calmed down. There was some hope in her unwilling eyes. That power didn't seem to be unconquerable. She wasn't that far away from that punch. If she could take that punch, it was the same as taking all the attacks. Vestana looked forward to the next time she could ascend. She looked forward to the next real face-to-face battle with Chen Zhao. And next time, she wouldn't fail again. Vestana could feel it. That day wasn't that far away anymore. Carrie was about to pee her pants. Couldn't she even hide here? Couldn't the psionic team protect her? Chen Zhao looked at Carrie with a smile. Look, I said that no one can protect you. Fuck, if you want to take Carrie away, you'll have to do it over my dead body. Just then, Carrie's only friend, Iman, stood before Carrie and roared. Sure. Chen Zhao raised his hand and aimed it at Iman instantly. Iman felt like death was coming. Stop. Suddenly, Toddy Belster yelled. Immediately, a huge demon appeared behind him. The demon's entire body was enveloped in terrifying hellfire. The demon's wings were spread to the maximum, more than 10 meters wide. The demon's body emitted terrifying waves. These waves were completely different from normal aura suppression. This was the demonic domain that only big demons could master. This kind of power caused everyone present to turn pale with fright. Only now did they understand how terrifying and powerful Toddy Belster was. Even Vestana was astonished. What kind of power was this? Just by feeling it, and not even as an enemy, the other party felt an immense pressure. In fact, this could no longer be called terrifying, but grand. Everyone felt how insignificant they were. In front of Toddy Belster, in front of the huge, fiery demon behind him. Smiling, Chen Zhao took 2 steps back. Fine, fine. You win. I only want her. I won't touch anyone else. Toddy Belster played along with him. Of course, Chen Zhao had to play along with Toddy Belster. As the high-level advisor of the psionic ability team, he had to display his authority and strength. This was the only way to consolidate his position. Chen Zhao lifted his finger, and Carrie was lifted into the air. Chen Zhao turned and left, disappearing into the darkness in a few seconds. The others were now enveloped by the demonic domain of the great demon behind Toddy Belster. Even if he wanted to help, he couldn't. Only Chen Zhao could come and go as he pleased. Seeing Chen Zhao leave, Toddy Belster looked at Chen Zhao. Suddenly, he half knelt on the ground like a deflated balloon. At the same time, the great demon behind him disappeared. The suppression of the demonic domain was also released. Mr. Toddy, why didn't you stop him just now? You can definitely do it. West Anna was shocked by Toddy Belster's terrifying power. She felt that Toddy Belster could definitely stop Chun Zhao. He might even be able to defeat this invincible enemy. But Toddy didn't do that. Instead, they could only watch as Chun Zhao led their people away. Blitz went up to help Toddy Belster up. Even though West Anna was their boss, Blitz said unhappily, "Miss Vestana, you'd better show some respect to Mr. Torty. I think he's done more than enough." Blitz said with dissatisfaction. Toddy Belster stood up tiredly. Looking at West Anna, he said, "You think I don't want to? I've only just come into contact with this level of power. As you can see, it's already very difficult for me to maintain it. Mr. Chun, on the other hand, isn't suppressed by my power at all. This can only mean that he also has this power and is more skilled than me. If we fight, I'll definitely lose, so I can only control my power and scare him away. As for defeating him," Toddy Belster looked at West Anna seriously. "For now, I can't do it alone." Bullshit. Toddy Belster was bullshit. Summoning demons wasn't difficult for him at all. The demonic domain wasn't released by him either. It was by the great demon. So he didn't have to use any energy at all. He didn't even need to do anything to summon the demon. He was just acting until the end. However, Vestana showed a look of remorse. "Sorry, Mr. Toddy, I was impulsive. I apologize." Westana apologized sincerely. But it was also because of Toddy Belster's unimaginable power. His position in their hearts rose once again. It was unimaginable power. Toddy Belster was the same. So was Chun Zhao. "Mr. Toddy, let me help you in." Blitz helped Toddy Belster in a friendly manner. Vestana followed. She wanted to know everything she could about that power. Perhaps, in the next war, this kind of power would become the absolute key. "Mr. Toddy, what exactly is that power?" "Domain." Toddy Belster answered weakly but firmly. "My understanding of domains isn't complete yet. I've only come into contact with it recently. It's the talent and power that only true experts have. Different from me, that man has a complete domain. Have you seen him use it before?" Both shook their heads. They couldn't help but look even more worried. The situation wasn't as optimistic as they'd imagined. In the two battles, Chun Zhao had defeated them without even using his domain. It wasn't hard to imagine how terrifying that man was. How can we obtain this power? Does everyone have the chance? Blitz asked. Toddy Belster couldn't help but look at Blitz. Theoretically, everyone has the right, but reality isn't theory. Divine Emperor of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 29:47. Carrie was so scared that she almost peed her pants. How could this happen? Didn't they agree to be each other's angels? Carrie knew that the psionic team was helpless too, but helplessness didn't mean she could accept it. On the other hand, Chun Zhao's dominance made her panic. Then Carrie was tossed to the ground. "Don't be rash. Killing is against the law." Carrie jumped up from the ground. "Don't be reckless. Murder is against the law." Carrie jumped up from the ground. "Go in." He pointed at a small building behind Carrie. Carrie looked at the building. It was dark inside. She couldn't see anything. Jolly Wen looked at the small building. It was dark inside, and she couldn't see anything. Carrie stared at Chun Zhao in fear. "Shut up." Chun Zhao waved his finger, and Carrie was sent flying into the building. "Shut up." Chun Zhao waved his finger, and Carrie flew backward, falling into the building. As soon as Carrie stood up, a huge force came from behind and sent her flying. She felt as if all the bones in her body were about to fall apart. "Wretched bastard." Carrie cursed. "Carrie, it wasn't that man who attacked you just now. It was an evil spirit." "What? Evil spirit? He wants an evil spirit to kill me? That evil spirit alone shouldn't be able to kill you. What about the ones on the other side?" Carrie suddenly panicked. There was something that looked like a beehive embedded in the opposite wall. It was so densely packed that it made one's scalp go numb. If someone with trypophobia saw this, they'd probably go into shock. Actually, it was a beehive formed by countless evil spirits. They'd emptied the wall and stuffed themselves into it, forming holes. Huwu's tone changed too. "Spirit nest." No matter what it was, a quantitative change would result in a qualitative change. The conditions to form a spirit nest were more stringent. An evil spirit at the level of a calamity had to die. Moreover, the spirit didn't dissipate or get rid of. Then, other evil spirits discovered it and used it as a nest. As time passed, the weaker evil spirits didn't devour the spirit. Instead, they were bound by the spirit and became a part of the nest. The evil spirits that were fused with the spirit nest still retained some consciousness, but they were more like the neurons of the spirit nest. If one evil spirit discovered its prey, all the evil spirits would discover it. Oh no! Yuanwu obviously realized that something was wrong. Over 100 evil spirits screeched at the same time. The surrounding walls were crumbling. What should I do? Think of something. I don't want to die here, run. The only thing you could do now is run. Carrie fled frantically. Just as she reached the door opened. She saw Chun Zhao standing far away. The moment she rushed out, Chun Zhao tapped lightly. Carrie was shoved back into the building. Half an hour later, Carrie was covered in blood. Dragging her broken right leg, she staggered out of the building. Carrie felt like she was going to die. She also did not know how she had destroyed the spirit nest. In short, she won. No, it should be said that she survived. Carrie suddenly stopped and saw Chun Zhao standing outside. Carrie didn't know how Chun Zhao would deal with her. Without saying anything, Chun Zhao turned and got into the car. After a few seconds, he said coldly, "Get in the car." Carrie didn't have the courage to fight Chun Zhao anymore. She obediently got into the car. "This isn't the way to my house," Carrie said. Chun Zhao didn't say anything. He ignored Carrie's doubts. Carrie was even more terrified. She was afraid that the next destination would be like this. Just now, when she faced the spirit nest, both she and Yuan Wu had used all their strength to destroy it. If the next destination was still like this, she might as well just die. The car stopped in front of a house in a residential area. Jolly Wen looked around. It seemed like someone lived here. It didn't seem like a creepy place. "Get out." Carrie got out of the car, trembling. Chun Zhao walked to the door and knocked. The door opened. Xiaoyi saw Chun Zhao standing outside. Behind him, there was also Carrie, who was covered in blood. "Mr. Chun, she'll be your roommate from now on," Chun Zhao said. With that, Chun Zhao turned and left. Xiao He and Jiaowen were left behind, looking at each other. Xiao didn't have time to ask. She hurriedly helped Carrie into the house. Carrie was frightened tonight. She really felt like she was going to die. "Are you okay?" Xiao He looked at Carrie, who was curled up on the sofa. "Very," Carrie said. "Who are you to that man?" "I'm not related to him. He saved my life, but I don't have much contact with him," Xiao He said. "What about you?" "Slave." Xiao He looked at Jolly Wen with a strange expression and asked, "In what way?" "I owed him money. Then I found a backer and thought that I could avoid that man. In the end, that man found my backer and beat him up. He dragged me out and made me like this. He's so cruel." Xiao He didn't know the whole story, so she started to imagine it. "You need to wash up. I'll find some medicine for you," Xiao He said. After Jia Li Wen showered, Xiao He lent her clothes to Jia Li Wen. She also helped Carrie deal with her wounds. She didn't need to talk about the bruises. There were also many bite marks from evil spirit claws. "These are from evil spirits." You too? "Yes, he threw me in front of a spirit nest. Damn, I almost died there." Xiao He exclaimed, "Spirit nest? You faced a spirit nest alone? That thing is very difficult to deal with. Back then, my father had to bring a dozen disciples to deal with a spirit nest." "You're a loose cultivator? Or a family one?" "Me? I count as a loose cultivator," Carrie said. "Then what do you plan to do next?" "I don't know. I don't even dare to run now. He's a demon. His power covers all of Los Angeles." "No, all of California. You can't escape from Los Angeles," Xiao He said. "In other words, I have nowhere to run? Will the police protect me?" Xiao He glanced at Carrie and shook her head. "It's useless. If he wants to kill you, unless you hide in the White House, you won't be able to escape. Is there no other way?" "I can't help you," Xiao He said. "By the way, maybe I can teach you some spells. If you face danger next time, you might be more relaxed. Can you help me defeat him?" This, I don't know how powerful he is. Top. Chapter 2948. Xiao had never seen Chun Zhao fight. However, from her interaction with West had said that Chun Zhao was very powerful. As for exactly how powerful he was, Xiao didn't have a clear idea. However, she knew that West was powerful because she had run into some trouble once. Coincidentally, West had come to see her. Then, he had helped her solve the problem. He had done it easily, too, to make West say that Chun Zhao was very powerful. This meant that Chun Zhao was really powerful, perhaps much more powerful than the two of them. I know someone. He works for that Chen. He's my uncle. I'll ask him tomorrow, Xiao said. Don't. You said that your uncle works for that man. If you ask, won't you expose my inner thoughts? She was still afraid. It's okay. I won't ask directly, Xiao said. Then be careful. Don't expose me. Right now, Carrie's fear of Chun Zhao had reached its peak. It wasn't just that Chun Zhao had mistreated her. Before that, Chun Zhao had faced more than 100 people in the psionic team alone. However, his aura alone was able to suppress more than 100 people in front of him to the point of suffocation. If not for Mr. Toady, the psionic team would probably have been defeated by Chun Zhao alone. Uncle West, are you busy? Yes. I'll treat you to lunch. Okay. Give me the address. West could actually feel that he was still a little guarded against him. Thus, after arranging Xiao's accommodation and the procedures for her to study abroad, he rarely went to find her. He kept a safe distance that he felt comfortable with. However, West didn't expect to treat him to lunch. This surprised and delighted him. When West arrived at the restaurant, he was already one step ahead of him. This is for you. Took West's brocade box. The moment she opened it, a dense wave of magic surged out. It was a small and exquisite pendant. It's a gadget made by our alchemists. Everyone has one, so I took one. No, it's too expensive. Couldn't tell what the red gem in the middle of the pendant was, but it was definitely not an ordinary magic material. This kind of top-grade magic material could easily cost tens of thousands of dollars, and most of the time, it was measured in grams. Don't worry, this thing is the least valuable in our world. Worthless? How is that possible? Felt that West had purposely said that so that she would accept the gift. That's the truth. We have too many of these things. If it weren't for stabilizing the market price, I'm afraid we would have sold them all long ago. Now that we have them in our hands, it's not convenient to sell them, so we can only use them for ourselves. How is that possible? It's impossible for there to be a large supply of such top-quality magic materials, right? This is refined from the blood of some magical creature. Even if it's the blood of a large magic creature, there won't be much left after it's been refined, right? We found many of these magic creatures. No one else has found them yet, so they're exclusive to the supernatural organization. West shrugged. Indeed, the blood of a giant dragon had been refined and concentrated 100 times. But even if it was 100 times more concentrated, it was still quite impressive. A giant dragon could produce 2 tons of dragon blood crystals. This meant that the supernatural organization had more than 20 tons of dragon blood crystals. And this was when they had only refined 1/3 of the giant dragon's blood. The market price of dragon blood crystals was $2 million per kilogram. It was worth far more than gold of the same weight. However, the market demand for dragon blood crystals was much lower than gold. Therefore, if the supernatural organization put the dragon blood crystals on the market, the price of the crystals would probably plummet 100 times. Therefore, the supernatural organization's current strategy was to keep the crystals flowing. But even if they couldn't put the dragon blood crystals on the market in one go, it would still bring them a considerable amount of income. Even without the financial support from the higher-ups, the supernatural organization still had a lot of capital. And this was just the income from the dragon blood crystals. There were other things like dragon horns, dragon balls, dragon scales, and dragon eyes. As long as there was a small supply, they would be sold out the moment they went on the market. Hearing West's words, Xiao reluctantly accepted the gift. West had given her the pendant mainly because, as an elder, It wasn't suitable for him to give her accessories like bracelets, rings, or necklaces. A pendant was more suitable. Uncle West, who's the most powerful person in the supernatural organization. Our president, of course. Is he as powerful as you? That's for sure. When we asked him to be our president, we liked his abilities. He's also stronger than we expected. He's probably the strongest and most suitable president since the supernatural organization was established. Even I can't find any problems with him. What level is he? Level? It doesn't matter what level it is. He can probably deal with any kind of supernatural threat. Xiaohe ignored the second half of West's sentence. In her opinion, West was blowing his own trumpet and exaggerating. She didn't believe that there was anyone in the world who could deal with all supernatural threats. After all, she was the former mistress of the God Refinement sect. There were also many books in the God Refinement sect that recorded some events in the Huaxia supernatural world. Therefore, Xiaohe guessed that West's vision was limited. But thinking about it, it was understandable. After all, North America was the weakest supernatural region. Chun Zhao's strength was certain. But it definitely wasn't as exaggerated as West said. If I want to surpass him, can I do it? West looked at Xiaohe with a strange expression and then shook his head silently. To the members of the supernatural organization, Chun Zhao was basically invincible. That was an impression accumulated through battle after battle and many powerful enemies. Now, it was very difficult to be shaken by others. Therefore, Xiaohe said that she wanted to surpass their president. From West's point of view, it wasn't just a slim chance. It was practically impossible. Xiaohe, if you want to practice more advanced magic, you can join the supernatural organization. We still have many powerful people there. You should set your goal more realistically. You shouldn't set your goal on defeating the president from the start, Hansen said. Chapter 2949. Reiko, Kaha-chan. The two arranged to meet at the amusement park. Xiaohe and Nagasaka Reiko kept in contact more often. Basically, they belonged to the category of best friends. The two often shopped, ate, and shopped together. Occasionally, they would also be in the same class. The two of them interacted the most in school. They were all international students from the Los Angeles branch campus. Of course, Nagasaka Reiko's results were not very good. However, this couldn't be helped because Nagasaka Reiko would skip 2/3 of her classes every semester. On the contrary, Xiaohe's performance was quite good. The two girls were having fun in the amusement park. When he was tired, he sat on a bench in the amusement park and ate ice cream. Reiko, you skipped class again yesterday. Professor Andy is very angry. It's okay. My family donated a lot of money to the school. I won't be dissuaded. Nagasaka Reiko said disapprovingly. Xiaohe rolled her eyes, feeling a little envious and jealous at the same time. Did you have a mission yesterday? Sort of. Nagasaka Reiko vaguely replied. In fact, she had entered the Tower of Trials yesterday, and he had finally passed the second level and entered the third level. The third floor of the Tower of Trials was where the top fighters of the supernatural organization were. Due to the sudden arrival of the spirit tide, everyone's strength seemed to have improved significantly. This was especially true for the few top-notch combatants. Their growth rate far exceeded that of the others. Although everyone was on the third floor, the difference in combat power was still very obvious. Is it difficult? It's all right, Nagasaka Reiko said. We followed the captain to deal with a few spirit nests. Halfway through, we received a call from the president. He even told us to leave one spirit nest behind. The sudden arrival of the spirit chi tide had significantly increased the strength of the supernatural organization. But at the same time, it also increased the incidence of supernatural incidents. Take yesterday's mission, for example. According to the investigation, those spirit nests were formed in the last 10 days or so. Under normal circumstances, the journey to the spiritual nest would take at least a few years. The formation of the spirit nest was so short that everyone could only attribute it to the spirit chi tide. Xiaohe was a little speechless. It seemed that the spirit nest they had left behind had been used by Jia Liwen in the end. The last spirit nest was taken care of by your president, right? Are you kidding me? The guild leader had to personally deal with a spirit nest? How much do you look down on our guild leader? Are those spirit nests qualified for your president to take action? Nagasaka Reiko rolled her eyes at Xiaohe. Spirit nest? As an official member, he could easily take care of a few of them. Can this thing be used as a standard to measure our guild leader? Don't look down on our guild leader. All right. Originally, Xiaohe wanted to get something from Nagasaka Reiko that was different from what Wes said. Xiaohe felt that Nagasaka Reiko came from Japan, and Japan was an area with a lot of supernatural activities. She should be more knowledgeable than West. But in the end, Nagasaka Reiko's tone was almost the same as West's. That matter-of-fact tone, that kind of pride and arrogance when questioning others. Our guild leader is the #1 expert in the world. This time, it was Xiaohe who rolled her eyes. Chun Zhao, Fei Lai, and their children were all on the train to San Francisco. In order not to let his child disturb others, Chun Zhao specially booked a carriage. It was a 2 to 3 hour journey, and taking the train was more comfortable than flying. When the train arrived, Chun Zhao and his family boarded the double-decker bus that Portia had prepared beforehand. Only the double-decker bus had enough space for Chun Zhao's children to be noisy. Chun Zhao had to bring his family because Marguerite really didn't have many friends, especially friends who could tell him their identities without worry. So, Chun Zhao could only bring his family to support Marguerite. After all, if the groom didn't have any friends or relatives during the wedding, it would be a pity for the wedding and the groom. Marguerite, who was wearing the groom's suit today, went up and hugged Chun Zhao excitedly when he saw him get off the bus. Then, a group of little demons rushed out of the car. As the main character of the wedding, he would never reject lively children. The wedding wasn't held in a church. Instead, it was held in an empty field outside the town. Not many friends and relatives came, including Chun Zhao's family. There were only about 30 people. Chun Zhao's family took half of them. During the wedding prelude, the bride's father held the bride's hand and solemnly handed her to Marguerite. The bride's father said a few words. It was the bride's second marriage. She mentioned the misfortunes of her first marriage and her first husband's bad deeds. The bride's father hoped that Marguerite could change his impression of his son-in-law. Then came the appearance of the wedding witnesses. It was a traditional ceremony. With the vows of husband and wife, the wedding ceremony was finally completed. Then, it was like a normal family party. Everyone walked around each other. Marguerite brought the bride to Chun Zhao and Fei Lai. Andre, you're so handsome today. Chun Zhao punched Marguerite's chest. Chun, are they all your children? Yes. Chun Zhao nodded. I didn't expect you to have so many children. I'm so envious. Allie didn't ask much. She could tell from their skin color that most of them weren't biological. You can have them too, but it'll take some time. The newlyweds definitely couldn't stay by Chun Zhao's side all the time. There were still many friends and relatives that they needed to greet. When Chun Zhao went to get the fruit salad, he suddenly felt someone's gaze. Following the feeling, he saw a black-haired woman. Beside her stood a tall, fat man who looked like a bodyguard. The woman also noticed Chun Zhao's gaze. Then, the woman walked over. Same kind? She asked straightforwardly. Chun Zhao nodded. Do you always look at ordinary people like this? Professional habit, the woman said disapprovingly. I just didn't expect the man's friend to have the same kind. Then he's just an ordinary person, Chun Zhao said immediately. He didn't know who the woman was or what she would do. However, he didn't want to cause any trouble for Marguerite. Just then, Allie came over again. Amada, when did you come? Allie, congratulations. The black-haired woman smiled, which was rare. After exchanging greetings, Allie introduced the black-haired woman to Chun Zhao. She was her cousin. Where are you from? Amada asked Chun Zhao. Los Angeles, Chun Zhao said. Really? I'm going to LA in a few days too. What a coincidence. If you have time, call me. I'll treat you to dinner. Huh, no need for dinner. I think you won't want to see me then. Chun Zhao furrowed his brows. Amethyst's tone was rather unfriendly. It seemed that she didn't have good intentions going to LA. I'll give you a piece of advice. In the next 2 weeks, you better go traveling. Don't go back to LA. Chapter 2950. Sorry, Chun Zhao replied with a smile. Traveling isn't in my plan. Okay, Amada said. Then you better hide at home and don't come out. Chun Zhao didn't know where Amada came from. However, she seemed to be hostile toward Chun Zhao. Nevertheless, at this wedding-themed party, the two still gave each other some dignity. Amada looked at Chun Zhao's back. Investigate who that man is. The tall and fat bodyguard beside her said in a low voice, Miss, I've already investigated. He's a rich man in L.A. with over $10 billion. He's been in this country for less than 3 years. He's suspected to be a spiritualist. No need to suspect, Amada said. He's definitely one. Then will our actions conflict with him? I hope not, Amada said. Amada said, after all, the impact of killing a billionaire is too great. However, if he must participate in the process of her conquest, then try to make it as clean as possible or make it look like an accident. At the wedding party, Chun Zhao and Amada didn't interact anymore. Although they occasionally met, they acted like they didn't know each other and gave their blessings to the two main characters of the wedding. Under Ellie and Morgary's guidance, Chun Zhao also greeted their friends and family. Everyone would greet each other in unfamiliar, yet passionate ways. Of course, compared to the complexity of adults, children were much simpler. They loved this kind of festive and lively atmosphere. After the wedding, Chun Zhao didn't return to L.A. immediately. Instead, he stayed the night in San Francisco. At night, Chun Zhao went to the forest. There was a faint aura in the air. Chun Zhao found Victoria. At the moment, Victoria was like a small mountain. No creature in the forest could threaten her. Of course, even humans. Unless it was an army, they wouldn't be able to threaten her. Victoria also recognized Chun Zhao. Or perhaps he recognized Chun Zhao through smell. They were as close as ever. Victoria nudged Chun Zhao with her big head. Chun Zhao wrapped his arms around Victoria. He couldn't even hug Victoria's head. She was really too big. Due to her barbaric growth, she was even bigger than Chun Zhao's princess. Chun Zhao took out the demonic crystal. It was Victoria's favorite food. Maybe it wasn't just food to her. Chun Zhao also thought about taking Victoria away. However, after some consideration, he gave up on this idea. Victoria didn't belong to him, but it was also Morgary's family. Chun Zhao came quietly and then left quietly. The forest was huge, and under normal circumstances, Victoria's city would be safe. Of course, this was only under normal circumstances. As long as there was human activity, it could not be said to be absolutely safe. The next day, he brought his family back to Los Angeles. Bang bang. Xiaohe and Carrie were startled awake. They ran out of their respective rooms. What happened? I don't know. Was that a knock on the door? Xiaohe pulled open the curtains of the living room and saw a car parked by the roadside. Chun Zhao was standing in front of the car. The loud noise was clearly caused by him. When Carrie saw him, her face paled. Seeing Jia Liwen's expression, Xiaohe immediately said angrily, "Don't be afraid of him. I'll teach him a lesson." As she spoke, Xiaohe strode to open the door. "Are you crazy? Do you know what time it is? Call Carrie out. I'm going to bed. If there's anything else, we'll talk tomorrow." As the daughter of a broken family, you don't seem to have any intention of going back. This won't do. So, I've decided. You've decided what? Chun Zhao hooked his finger and Xiaohe was pulled out. The next moment, Xiaohe heard the sound of a window breaking behind her. Carrie also broke out of the window. Chun Zhao threw the two girls into the car. "What are you doing? I'm warning you. Don't do anything stupid." Chun Zhao ignored the two women's panicked warnings and continued driving. Xiaohe was so angry that she wanted to fight. But Chun Zhao's next words chilled her heart. "You two better behave. My car is worth more than both of you combined. Before you fight, you better think about whether you can afford it or not." The pauper duo immediately behaved themselves. Xiaohe had heard from Carrie that she had accidentally shattered the glass of Chun Zhao's cafeteria. Then, Chun Zhao dared to ask her for $1 billion. If they scratched even a bit of his car, he would skin them alive. Soon, Chun Zhao stopped the car. "Get out." After the two women got out of the car, they discovered that there was a house in front of them that was immersed in darkness. The two women instantly felt a gust of chilly wind. Air. Mr. Chun, I have class tomorrow. Xiao He admitted defeat. Why did he have to stand up for Carrie? He had no money, no manpower, and no strength. Why was she so stupid? There's an evil spirit inside. Destroy it, and you can go home. Just one evil spirit? Xiao He asked. Yes, it's just an evil spirit. What level? Is it disaster level? If it was just a ferocious spirit, Xiao He felt that it was still possible. But it couldn't be disaster level. Of course, it was unlikely. It was almost impossible for a disaster-level evil spirit to appear in such a densely populated area. No, not disaster level, Chun Zhao said. So, it's only disaster level? Chun Zhao nodded. It's a little stronger than disaster level. Destroy it and we can go. Yes. Yuan Wu. We're disaster level. It's a classification for evil spirits or magical beasts. Disaster level is the highest. It's as hard to fight against as a natural disaster. It can cause great damage in a certain area. Disaster level is second. It can cause a certain amount of damage in a small area. Disaster level is a huge threat to a family. Below that are normal evil spirits. What level is the spirit nest? Disaster level. In other words, that fellow said that I can deal with the disaster level evil spirit inside. Theoretically, yes, but what? Level doesn't represent reality. Never mind. Let's see what kind of evil spirit it is. Yuan Wu was worried that Chun Zhao had prepared a spirit nest for Carrie 2 nights ago. It wouldn't be weakened this time. So Yuan Wu was worried that there was something fishy about the evil spirit inside. What are you waiting for? Go in. Chun Zhao kicked Carrie's butt and she flew into the room. Carrie was angry at such ungentlemanly behavior, but she didn't dare to say anything. She muttered as she followed Xiao He into the house. Chapter 2951. Xiao He and Jia Liwen both wanted to finish as soon as possible. After entering the house, they saw a twisted, evil spirit with only a pair of legs but 6 upper bodies. This evil spirit didn't avoid them. Its 6 crooked heads looked at Xiao He and Jia Liwen. The 2 girls had seen a bit of the world. There was nothing to be afraid of for a mere evil spirit. Don't be afraid. Go up and fight. Xiao He made a hand seal and chanted in a low voice, Summon Blood God, my venerable spell. The next moment, Xiao He slapped her forehead. A golden red mark that looked like a fire pattern appeared on her forehead. Xiao He took a horse stance. That evil spirit had already rushed up. Its 6 upper bodies bared their fangs and pounced at Xiao He. Xiao He moved and dodged the attack of the 12 sharp claws. She turned around and slapped one of the evil spirit's upper bodies. A scorching flame power burst out of Xiao He's palm. In an instant, the upper body that was slapped exploded. 1 down. Xiao He took 2 steps back. She looked quite relaxed. Impressive. Jia Liwen was very surprised. She didn't expect Xiao He to be so powerful. That's nothing. She's just using a force-borrowing spell. What force-borrowing spell? It's a spell that borrows the power of gods, ancestors, or nature. There are many similar spells in both the East and the West. Pu Wu said disapprovingly. Looking at her hand seal and chant just now, she should be borrowing the power of the fire spirit. Then isn't borrowing the power of gods the most powerful? Of course not. With the same magic power, borrowing the power of gods is the least because the requirements for borrowing the power of gods are very strict. On the contrary, the power of ancestors is the easiest to borrow. You can borrow more power with a relatively small amount of magic power, and the price is very small, or even no price. Moreover, the power of ancestors and the caster have an extremely high compatibility, so it's easier to use. What type of spell did you give me? It's not any type. It's just a simple circulation method. Combined with some simple breathing and releasing, you can compare magic power to fuel. Some powerful spells can be compared to a highly efficient engine. The breathing method you know now is to directly use fuel to spray others. Hearing Hu Wu's words, Carrie was instantly disappointed. So the things I know are so low level. Why don't you teach me something more advanced? No, I'm a divine beast. How could I know a human's cultivation technique? Don't you cultivate yourself? You won't be able to understand my cultivation method. Telling you more is just a waste of my breath. Then I don't have a place to look? You can ask Xiao He and see if she is willing to teach you her cultivation method. But you'd better not have too much hope. Her cultivation method has obvious traces of being passed down in her family, and it is estimated that there is also a bloodline requirement. Even if she is willing to teach you, you may not be able to practice it. At this moment, Xiao He was concentrating on dealing with the evil spirit in front of her. In the blink of an eye, another upper body was destroyed. Just when Xiao He was about to say something arrogant, she saw that the upper body of the first one that was blown up actually started to recover. Xiao He's countenance changed. Oh no, it's the root link spirit. The so-called root spirit was a spirit body with an extremely strong regenerative ability. As long as it was not instantly destroyed, even if there was only a small part left, it could still regenerate. Just like the legendary Hydra, as long as it had one head left, it could be reborn. Xiao He had never seen a root spirit with 6 bodies like the one in front of her. However, this was clearly not an ordinary calamity evil spirit. But to say that it had reached the level of a calamity, it was not. Jolly Win, don't be in a daze. Attack it with me. Jolly Win hurriedly joined the battle. However, the two of them clearly did not have enough attack power. From a certain point of view, this root spirit was even more difficult than the spirit nest from the day before. The two of them had put in a lot of effort, but in the end, they had only destroyed the upper body of the root spirit. Moreover, if they could not quickly deal with it, it was very likely that their previous efforts would have been in vain. Do you have a more ferocious attack? Jolly Wen asked Yuan Wu. Right now, the two of them clearly did not have enough attack power. This Lian Jin's spirit was too difficult to deal with, even though its own strength was nothing to worry about. Although its own strength was really nothing to worry about, its regenerative ability was truly despairing. Without enough attack power, it was impossible to deal with. Cooperate with me. I'll attack, Yuan Wu said. All right, how do you want me to cooperate with you? Raise your chi, exhale, and press your palm against your dantian. This is the position, right? How many times have I taught you? Point your navel downwards. All right, is this the right position? All right, here it comes. Yuan Wu burrowed out of Jia Liwen's body, its claws suddenly tearing apart the root spirit in front of it. Xiaoyi could not see Yuan Wu, but she could clearly feel a powerful aura surging out from Jia Liwen's body. Immediately after, the root spirit was torn into strips by that thing. Phew, it's done. Jia Liwen's legs suddenly went soft, and she lay on the ground. However, before the two of them could even catch their breath, a scene that made them despair appeared. Each strip of the root spirit that had been torn into strips began to extend new limbs, 6 new bodies. Xiaohe and Jia Liwen were dumbfounded. The two of them looked at each other and shouted, "Run!" The root spirit in front of them had turned into dozens of upper bodies, like the 1,000-armed Guanyin. Not only had its shape changed, but its aura had also become more than 10 times stronger. Boom! The two of them were thrown out of the house and landed right in front of Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao looked at the root spirit that had squeezed out. Amazing. This is the first time I've seen a spirit purge that can level up an evil spirit. You can raise a disaster-level evil spirit to disaster level. You're really amazing. The two of them looked at Chen Zhao, flustered. Chen Zhao actually wanted them to continue. But the thing before them had clearly surpassed their limit. It was the same level as the spirit nest yesterday, both at the disaster level. But even at the same level, there were different levels of combat power. This thing was much stronger than the spirit nest. Nearly 100 evil spirits with half bodies surged out like a tide. They seemed to want to drown the three of them. Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed. The root spirit was instantly squeezed into a ball. Jia Liwen's and Xiaohe's eyes almost fell out. That's it. That's it. What happened to the 300 rounds of battle? The two didn't talk when they were running. However, it was very obvious that he was trying to divert the trouble. It would be best if Chen Zhao and the root spirit died together. That would be the most perfect ending. Even if it didn't work, at least Chen Zhao would have to use a lot of effort to finish off the root spirit. Then, the two of them would be able to reap the benefits. But What kind of script was this? This wasn't the script they wanted. Chapter 2952. Take this manual. There's a surprise waiting for you tomorrow. Shun Zhao glanced at the two girls. Their faces were already pale from fear. Tomorrow? That was going to cost their lives. Did he have to risk his life fighting with these repulsive people every day? Shun Zhao's gaze suddenly landed on Yu Wu, who was behind Carrie. If you look at me like that again, I'll gouge out your eyeballs. Yu Wu froze. You can see me? Do you think it's hard for me to find one or two monsters that escaped from the beast steel with my abilities? Yu Wu stopped talking. Shun Zhao was telling the truth. With his abilities, he might not be able to catch all the monsters that escaped. But it would be a joke if he said he couldn't find a single one. Shun Zhao looked at the bead he'd made with the root spirit. The bead was almost weightless. After all, the root spirit was a spirit. He flicked it to Carrie and turned to get in the car. Wait, you're just going to leave us here? Can't you get in the car yourself? For Carrie and Xiaohe, this was just the start of their suffering. Every night after that, Shun Zhao would bring the two girls out. Nevertheless, Carrie's abilities improved day by day, especially after Yu Wu ate the bead made with the root spirit that night. His abilities more than doubled. Regular spirits didn't improve his abilities at all, but the root spirit was a disaster-level evil spirit. This wasn't something that could happen every day, even if there was a second disaster-level evil spirit in front of them. Even if they had the ability to defeat it, they might not have the chance to devour it. At most, they would just take a few bites of the leftovers. There weren't many arrays that Shun Zhao could make into beads like the other night. The second was the cultivation technique manual that Jia Li Wen had obtained. This was what Carrie lacked the most. However, it wasn't something that could be learned in a day. Therefore, Carrie's own improvement wasn't fast. Fortunately, Yu Wu's improvement was also reflected in her. Shun Zhao focused on finding all kinds of enemies for them. He was strong, and his attacks weren't restricted to the norm. It had to be said that their combat experience had increased significantly in the past few days. Blackie returned. He suddenly appeared when Shun Zhao and his family were having dinner. Shun Zhao glared at Blackie annoyed. He stopped Blackie and told him to wait for the family to finish their dinner. After dinner, Shun Zhao entered the space crevice. How is it? Did you find anything? I've been venturing deep into the core of the feathered serpent god's world. When I got close to the core, I found a huge underground cavern. I can sense something filling the entire cavern. Perhaps it's the soul of the world you're looking for, but I can't be sure. I've never seen such a huge spiritual body before. I even suspect that it's a spiritual body. Shun Zhao's eyes hardened. Looks like I was right. Your guess? My current realm has always been lacking, but I've always been thinking about where I'm lacking. The circulation of my inner world is already quite perfect, and I can't find any flaws. Therefore, I'm thinking, since humans have souls, does the world also have souls? If a world has a soul, then what my inner world lacks to transform into a small world is a soul. In that case, let's go and take a look at the so-called world soul. Shun Zhao and Blackie moved immediately. He arrived in the world of the feathered serpent god. The cavern was near the center of the earth. If it was a normal person, even if they knew that there was something there, they could only look at it and sigh. Shun Zhao didn't have such worries. He directly went down. The ground and rock layers were no different from tofu to Shun Zhao. The closer they got to the cavern, the more Shun Zhao could feel the aura that could be described as vast. When Shun Zhao and Blackie arrived at the cavern, they felt that they were in this aura. No consciousness. Shun Zhao and Blackie glanced at each other. This thing didn't have any desire to attack them. Or rather, they didn't even feel any emotions. Shun Zhao's heart jumped. His inner world revolved wildly, sucking the huge soul into it. But as soon as Shun Zhao did so, the soul actually fused into his inner world. What's going on? Wait, why is it so easy? Even a normal spiritual body would struggle when it's absorbed, let alone a world soul. Shun Zhao didn't feel any resistance. On the contrary, the spiritual body was very obedient and cooperative. Shun Zhao absorbed more than half of it effortlessly. No, this isn't a complete soul. It's a fragment, Blackie said. How is that possible? Such a huge soul fragment? How big is the whole thing? Chun Zhao could feel that the soul was at least as big as a city. But it was just a fragment? Under normal circumstances, an ordinary spirit body would be blasted into at least a few dozen pieces when it was shattered. The original body of the soul might have been shattered long ago, Blackie said. Maybe you broke it. That was possible. Chun Zhao thought back to the battle. In the end, he'd used a super meteor to hit the surface. It was very likely that the attack had shattered the world's soul. It was because the world's soul had been shattered. That was why he could easily merge with the fragment of the world's intent and steal the foundation of the world. Moreover, he had the majority of the initiative. The remaining part didn't attack Chun Zhao either. Everything made sense now. That strike had already shattered the world's soul. The world's intent was gone. Because of this, the fragment of the world soul would see him as the original body when he absorbed it. It instinctively got close to him and cooperated with his absorption. Simply put, Chun Zhao now represented the world's intent. The entire fragment was completely absorbed by Chun Zhao. In the inner world, the soul fragment was melted, disintegrated, and then reconstructed. Chun Zhao didn't even need to interfere in this process. The inner world seemed to know what to do instinctively. A blurry figure appeared in the inner world. It was very blurry, and the face couldn't be seen clearly, but one could tell from the outline that it was Chun Zhao's image. Blackie looked at Chun Zhao as if he could see some changes in Chun Zhao. How is it? Yes, I can feel that the inner world is becoming complete, but to make it complete on its own will probably take hundreds or thousands of years. I need more soul fragments. Feel it hard, Blackie said. It's a part of you. You should be able to find the other fragments more easily than me, as long as they still exist in this world. Chapter 29:53. Feel it with force? Blackie's choice of words was exquisite. Actually, he was using his own soul power to spread it out. It was like using a huge magnetic field as the source. Soul magnetic fields would attract each other. Moreover, Chun Zhao was blessed by the heavens here. The entire world belonged to him. Chun Zhao's consciousness spread across the mountains and rivers, crossing the vast ocean. He jumped into the abyss and crossed the endless plains. Found it. Chun Zhao retracted his consciousness. He sensed about 7 huge soul fragments. The soul fragment Chun Zhao had absorbed was the largest one hidden deep underground. The others weren't small either. Apart from the remaining 7, there were also hundreds of smaller ones scattered in every corner of the world. Chun Zhao had a thought. Instantly, he appeared before the second largest soul fragment with Blackie. With a thought, Chun Zhao and Blackie appeared before the second largest soul fragment in an instant. This soul fragment was hidden deep under the sea. It was even smoother than the first time. The moment Chun Zhao appeared, the soul fragment burrowed into his body. The moment the second soul fragment fused with the inner world, the figure in the inner world became clearer too. The third soul fragment. He could already see the face of the figure in the inner world. The fourth soul fragment. The inner world had truly transformed. The fifth, the sixth, the figure in the inner world was actually shrinking slowly. No, it wasn't shrinking. It was becoming young again. From 30 to 20, 20 to 10, and then to a baby. Then the baby became an egg. The energy in the inner world started pouring into the egg. The egg started hatching, and the baby crawled out. The eggshell was refined by the baby and then reversed. It became a teenager, a young man, a strong man, an old man, and finally it decayed. After decaying, the energy returned to the world. The world was reconstructed and formed a new egg. This happened repeatedly. Egg, baby, teenager, young man, strong man, old man, decay. Each cycle was extremely perfect. The inner world seemed to be nourished. The inner world actually produced spiritual qi. Chun Zhao suddenly opened his eyes. At this moment, he had truly ascended. A perfect ascension. His colleagues also had a perfect inner world. Chun Zhao no longer needed the outer world to absorb the spiritual qi. His inner world could produce spiritual qi on its own. At this moment, Chun Zhao had truly transcended. Blackie had been following beside Chun Zhao silently. He felt Chun Zhao's change. Did you succeed? Yes. Chun Zhao nodded. Do you need the remaining fragments of the world's soul? Don't you need it? Chun Zhao thought for a moment and said, there's not much point. If I absorb the remaining soul fragment, I can become stronger to a certain extent, but it's a waste. Then leave it to me. I want to study the world soul. I will also collect the small fragments scattered everywhere. Chun Zhao nodded. The world's soul fragment could be said to be a supreme treasure. Of course, Chun Zhao wouldn't share it with outsiders. Blackie, on the other hand, was one of them, and he played a huge role in finding the first fragment of the world's soul. By the way, if you swallow this thing, can you become an existence like the Grim Reaper? Blackie thought about it and shook his head. This thing is too big. It will take a long time to swallow. I'm not sure if I can transform. Blackie had already transformed once, from a soul-bringer to a death-bringer. But in essence, Blackie hadn't changed. His duties and functions hadn't changed. The only change was that Blackie could appear in front of ordinary people as long as he wanted. Of course, Blackie had never done that before. Chun Zhao was also curious. If Blackie transformed again, could he evolve into the legendary Grim Reaper? Or something else? Here, Chun Zhao could do many things. He could teleport to any corner of the world instantly. This was just one of the skills Chun Zhao had discovered. No, it shouldn't be called a skill. It should be called a power. But Chun Zhao was still very unfamiliar with it. Chun Zhao didn't know what else he could do. Anyway, he had a long way to go. He didn't need a rush. When he returned to Earth, Chun Zhao realized that 3 days had passed. It wasn't because the time flow was different between the two worlds. It was because Chun Zhao had been immersed in the transformation process. Before he knew it, 3 days had passed. The world soul in his inner world basically went through a transformation cycle every 24 hours, from new life to decay, and then from decay to new life. Amada walked on the tree-lined path. This road had been around for 300 years. From the moment their family moved to this continent, from the moment their family settled in this country, this road had been built. Their family was the Felix family, an ancient and mysterious magic family. But they also had an illustrious name, a 1,000-year-old family. Before they moved to this land, they were a prominent family in Europe. There were big nobles in the world of ordinary people. The Felix family was the royal family of the magic world. There were only a few families that could compare to the Felix family. In their most glorious time, the Felix family had almost controlled the magic world of Europe. But their most glorious time was also their most painful time. The Felix family was overthrown. With the Scarlet Church as the main force, the Allied forces led by the 20th Blood Mary became the culprit of the Felix family's death. The Felix family suffered a crushing defeat. From the top combat power to the bottom structure, the 20th Blood Mary and her allied forces completely defeated the Felix family. The Felix family's divine artifact was sealed. Their top combat power died in battle. The remaining family members left Europe under the lead of the eldest son of the family leader at that time. To avoid being targeted by their enemies, the Felix family remained silent for 300 years. A whole 300 years. Even their former enemies had forgotten about the Felix family's existence. But they didn't disappear. The Felix family never disappeared. They still existed. They were just waiting for an opportunity. Finally, the opportunity came. Not long ago, the sleeping family woke up. The first sign was the awakening of the family's powerhouses that had been sleeping for hundreds of years. The second sign was that the sealed family's divine artifact had been unsealed without any warning, and many ordinary members of the family suddenly awakened their bloodline. All the signs pointed to the return of the Felix family. It was like a beautiful note drawn by fate. All the signs indicated the arrival of a new era. Every awakened would remember the humiliation their family had suffered in the past. Their hatred was passed down from generation to generation. Amma was the representative of the new generation. She had a noble bloodline, strength, and the hatred of the past. Now, she was going to carry out the first order given by the family with the other new generation. Her mission was to conquer California. Yes, to inform the spiritual world of California. The other family members more or less received the same mission. When the whole family controlled the entire North American spiritual world, the family would have enough resources to deal with their past enemies one by one. Chapter 29:54. Through the forest path, they came to a meadow. Dozens of the new generation of the clan were training here. Unlike Amada, who had awakened her magic at a young age, most of them had awakened less than 3 years ago. Some of them had even awakened recently. Amada is here. Amada, our big sister. Amada was proud. She could be proud. Facing the new generation, Amethyst's strength had almost reached the upper limit of the new generation. She even surpassed many of the older generation. She was synonymous with genius. Of course, there was no shortage of geniuses in the Felix family. Amada was just one of them. On the second night of awakening at the age of 5, she had broken the record of the Felix family. She had already received all the attention and training. Of course, Amada did not disappoint those expectations and training. A trainer came up to her. "Miss Amada, why are you here?" "I'm here to choose some people," Amada said. "What about these little guys?" The little ones that Amada spoke of were actually many older than her. But no one objected to Amethyst's words. Even the eyes of the new generation were filled with eagerness to try. "Amada, choose me. I will help you take care of all your enemies," a burly young man said. His gaze towards Amada was filled with fanaticism and adoration. Amada did not agree immediately. "That depends on your performance. Don't let me down." The trainer said, "That's DeWick, a guy who has tempered his body to the extreme. If he goes all out, he can even take a tank's bombardment." "Oh, that's strong?" "Yes, with the blessing of a secret method. It doesn't last long, but almost no one can hurt him during the duration of the secret method." "Then count him in," Amada said. "DeWick, come here. Do you have any other recommendations?" The trainer introduced the new generation one by one, explaining in detail what they were good at and their level of strength. Amada was very satisfied with the selected new generation. It seemed that during this time, everyone's strength had improved at an alarming rate. "Jalanash, I need your help." "Sorry, I can't help you." Jalanash refused NAR's request without hesitation, even when Nelson was looking at her with big, watery eyes. "No, only you can help me." "No, I can't help you." Jalanash rejected her expressionlessly. "If you don't help me, I'll sell this dragonbone ring. This dragonbone ring should be worth a lot of money. If you sell it, you won't get any more magic tools," Jalanash said. "You can't be so cruel." "I don't think I'm cruel. On the contrary, I'm kind enough," Jalanash said nonchalantly. "Why do you think you're still here? If it wasn't for my protection, you would have been dragged back by your family. Then help me one more time. One last time. The last time this year." An AR hugged Jalanash, trying to soften her heart this way. "I just want a dress. It's only $3,000. It's this year's latest style. I'm only short of $1,000 right now. I only need you to lend me $1,000. For you, it's not even enough for a single cultivation session. The money I spend on training will become my safety during missions." "That dress won't do," Jalanash said. "If you need to buy magic materials for training, I'll be happy to support you, but you're buying a dress. Then just pretend I'm doing it for training." "No, you're not." And AR threw himself onto the sofa and waved his arms, crying and yelling like a child. "If you need money, you can join the Supernatural organization. Even if you're just an outer member, it'll be enough for your expenses." "No, I won't waste my best years on those boring missions. If the Supernatural organization is really sincere, then your chairman should come personally to ask me to join and give me an official member status and a high salary. You could tell our chairman what you want." "I don't want to. He'll beat me to death." Rolling her eyes, Jalanash walked away. "Where are you going?" "Back to my room. Also, I have a mission tonight. Good night." And AR bounced up from the sofa. "Mission? I'll help you, and you can share some of the money with me." Jalanash was about to refuse, But then she thought about it. It might be a good chance for Nar to train. After Nar had run away from the family, he'd been by her side. Jalanash knew her family's harsh environment. Back then, she hadn't been outstanding enough, so she'd been sent out or exiled. Nar's talent was much better than hers, but her personality was too undisciplined. If she returned to the family and didn't improve, she'd be slandered and humiliated in the future. To her, however much praise she'd received in the past would be how much slander and humiliation she'd suffered in the future. Sure, Jalanash said. What's our mission tonight? On a road into L.A., an unknown magical beast appeared. Looks like a crystal reindeer. What's a crystal reindeer? It's a magical beast. Is it strong? How strong is it? If it's a reindeer, it should be tame, right? Beasts that cannot be communicated with are dangerous, especially magical beasts that possess mana and magic. Crystal reindeer is on the list of dangerous magical beasts. Although they don't eat meat, it doesn't mean they won't attack humans. How strong? Disaster level? Or I hope it's only disaster level. What do you mean? Could it be that it can still grow? Crystal reindeers are one of the few magical beasts that can evolve. Once it evolves, it might evolve into a disaster reindeer. Disaster reindeer? Disaster level? Yes, but the chances are low. There were about 300 crystal reindeers discovered in the past 100 years, and only 2 of them evolved into disaster reindeers, so the chances are low. Jalanash, you know how to tame magic, right? Why don't you tame this crystal reindeer? If you don't want it, you can give it to me. Jalanash glanced at Nar. You can't even feed yourself. How can you feed a magical beast? Especially a crystal reindeer that feeds on magic crystals? Taming magical beasts wasn't an exclusive secret. Apart from the super professionals, many families or organizations had mastered several types of magic to tame magical beasts. But taming magic wasn't easy and could even be considered cumbersome. Chapter 2955. Most people couldn't even tame ordinary wild animals, much less magical beasts. Like in the novels, taming powerful magical beasts to become stronger wasn't unheard of in reality, but it was very difficult. Is it still your team this time? No, it's just me and you. Nar had gone on a few missions with Jalanash, or rather, to join in the fun. So, she was quite familiar with Jalanash's team members. Why are you going on a mission alone this time? Don't tell me you took on a private job? 2 missions are overlapping, so our team will split up. I'll be in charge of the Crystal Reindeer mission, and they'll be in charge of the other mission. Are you sure you can do it alone? No, it's 2 people. You've left yourself out. Nar was speechless. Actually, she'd been with Jalanash for a few months now. She'd long known the difference in power between her and Jalanash. Jalanash, who'd been exiled by her family because of her talent, had long surpassed her, a genius of the family. And not just a little bit, but completely. It wasn't that Nar hadn't thought about joining the supernatural organization, but she also knew that she'd have to return to her family sooner or later. So, she hadn't really joined the organization, although no one would stop her from going to the organization's headquarters. But there must be some things in the organization that she hadn't come into contact with. Of course, Nar didn't want to explore other people's secrets. Just like how her family had secrets too. Who didn't have a few hidden stashes? Sitting in Jalanash's car, they arrived at a road outside the city. Jolene Nash made a phone call and temporarily closed that section of the road. Nar, put on the dragon bone ring. Also put on this too. What's this? A magic item made of dragon blood crystals. It can provide you with a large amount of magic power in a short time. Keep this for yourself. You're more useful than me. Expressionlessly, Jalanash fished out a handful of dragon blood crystals from her bag. Nar looked at Jalanash speechlessly and silently hung the pendant around her neck. That magical beast's aura is very strong. It should be nearby. It's not disaster level, but close, Jalanash said seriously. Cast a magic shield on yourself first. Jalanash, why are you using your magic shield so early? It will consume too much mana for me to maintain the magic shield. I won't have any extra mana to help you in a battle. I gave you the dragon blood crystal to replenish your mana. Judging from your aura, no matter how much mana you have left, you won't be able to participate in this battle. It's not like I haven't met calamity-level opponents before. Don't underestimate me. Jalanash glanced at Null. There are differences in the level of disaster, too. The difference between the strong and the weak can be more than 10 times. What we're facing now is an extremely dangerous magical beast that's close to disaster level. It's worlds apart from the so-called disaster-level beasts you've encountered before. You're only slightly stronger than me, Null said stubbornly. Actually, she knew that Jalanash was not just a little stronger than her. They were not on the same level at all. Only when you can maintain the magic shield and mana balance at the same time will you have the right to say that to me. They no longer argued. Strength was the best explanation. It was useless to say more. Suddenly, a violent aura hit them in the face. Null almost lost her footing, and the magic shield on her also rippled. Jalanash frowned. This extremely violent aura was really not like a crystal reindeer. It was more like a carnivorous magical beast. It seemed that the intelligence was wrong. It shouldn't be a crystal reindeer. Jalanash suddenly stood still. Here it comes. That thing is approaching. A red figure appeared 100 meters in front of Jalanash and Nar. It was a reindeer. It was indeed a reindeer. But most of its skin had fallen off, revealing the red crystals inside. And its horns were no longer in the shape of antlers, but spiral demon horns. Its eyes were crimson, and when it opened its mouth, it revealed a mouthful of fangs. Jalanash sucked in a sharp breath. Oh no, that's a mutant. There were mutants in magical beasts too. The appearance of mutant magical beasts was always the case, where the strong became stronger and the weak became weaker. For example, the mutant crystal reindeer in front of them. The crystal reindeer was already very strong, and after the mutation, it had surpassed the habits of its species. Its mouthful of fangs was the best proof. That mouth full of sharp teeth was definitely not prepared to be eaten by vegetarians. The crystal reindeer used to be pure white crystals. But now, the crystal exposed by the mutant was like a burning flame. Jalanash immediately raised her arm, and a several-meter-tall frost spirit appeared in front of her. I am Winter. The frost spirit let out a cold and low roar. Go freeze everything, Jalanash ordered. Nar, on the other hand, was shocked. Frost spirit, a branch of the water element, advanced ice magic. There were a few elders in the family who could cast it, but they needed a long time to chant and prepare before they could barely summon a frost spirit. How could it be so illegal? No chanting, no preparation, and just a raise of the hand to summon one. The frost spirit was covered in ice armor, and inside the armor was a swirling ball of cold air. With a powerful blade, it charged toward the mutant crystal reindeer. Freeze, living thing! The frost spirit rushed to within 10 meters of the mutant crystal reindeer, raised its arm, and shot out in extreme cold air. The mutant crystal reindeer stepped on the ground with its front hooves. In an instant, a circle of hot flames spread out, dissolving the cold air. Then, the mutant crystal reindeer charged forward. Clang! The steel-like ice armor was instantly shattered. In the next instant, the frost spirit's body seemed to have been buried with countless grenades, and it kept exploding. In the end, the frost spirit completely shattered, leaving behind a pile of debris that quickly melted. So strong, Nar exclaimed. Jalanash frowned. So strong. This mutant crystal reindeer seemed a bit too strong. The frost spirit she summoned was also disaster level. But in the blink of an eye, it was killed by the mutant crystal reindeer. It really was a bit too strong. But the strength of the mutant crystal reindeer also ignited Jalanash's fighting spirit. She spread her arms, and a pair of wings formed by cold air appeared on her back. Looks like I have to go all out. Jalanash also released a powerful aura. Chapter 2956. Dozens of fireballs suddenly appeared around the mutant crystal reindeer. Jalanash immediately covered herself with a layer of ice armor. "Nar, back off. I don't have time to protect you now." Nar didn't say anything like, I'll stay and help you. That would make her look even more stupid. She decisively backed off. Although she couldn't help Jalanash with her current strength, she didn't want to be a burden to her. At this time, the mutant crystal reindeer attacked. Dozens of fireballs were shot at Jalanash. Jalanash waved one hand, and an extremely cold air swept across. The dozens of fireballs all turned into ice lumps and fell to the ground. Jalanash grasped in the air, and a pair of ice swords appeared in her palms. Then she shot the ice swords at the crystal reindeer. The demon horn on top of the crystal reindeer's head shot out a red light, shattering one of the ice swords. But the second ice sword followed. Hiss! The ice sword slashed across the demon horn, leaving a scratch on the side. Jalanash was a bit disappointed, but not surprised. However, Jalanash's attack had enraged the mutant crystal reindeer. The mutant crystal reindeer's breath became more violent. Jalanash grasped in the air, and a dozen spikes suddenly drilled out of the ground around the crystal reindeer, intertwining with each other. They locked the crystal reindeer's body tightly. The crystal reindeer suddenly howled. The howl wasn't loud, but it was unusually sharp. The sound seemed to have a certain frequency. The fire elements in the air seemed to be ignited. Flames began to appear in the air. Blizzard! Jalanash yelled. The temperature within 1,000 miles instantly dropped. The original flames disappeared and were replaced by the cold temperature. Jalanash raised her arms and slowly rose into the air. Icy meteorite! Whoosh! An ice ball with a diameter of more than 10 meters fell from the sky. Boom! The crystal reindeer didn't back down. Even hotter flames burst out from its demon horn, instantly shattering the falling ice ball. But Jalanash's move was a big one. There was more than one icy meteorite. More and more icy meteorites fell through the blizzard. The mutant crystal reindeer was shocked and hurriedly dodged a falling ice meteorite. However, Jalanash seized the opportunity and reached out to grab the mutant crystal reindeer as it dodged. Ice chains shot out from the snow and bound the mutant crystal reindeer tightly. Although a few of the mutant crystal reindeer managed to break free, there were even more ice chains binding it. Then, another icy meteor smashed into its head. Then the second, the third, the fourth, the violent fire elementals in the surroundings had calmed down. Jalanash let out a long sigh of relief. The consecutive big moves just now had given her quite a bit of pressure. In just a dozen minutes, 60% of his magic power had been consumed. Jalanash sensed and found the location of the mutant crystal reindeer. With a grasp of his palm, the mutant crystal reindeer was lifted into the air, but it was completely frozen. It wasn't completely dead. Jalanash could still feel its presence. However, it was now completely restrained and couldn't move at all. The ice that sealed it was not an ordinary ice block, but a pure frost aura of extreme cold. Its main function was to suppress the fire elementals. Even if the mutant crystal reindeer could still cast magic, the frost would also block its resonance with the fire elementals. Clap, clap, clap. Suddenly, there was a round of applause in the blizzard. Beautiful, so beautiful. Hearing the applause, Jalanash couldn't help but frown. She didn't sense the other person's presence at all. No, how did Nara's presence disappear? Did she die from the shockwave? Jalanash waved her hand, and the blizzard stopped. Not far away, a few people were standing. The leader was a black-haired woman in her early 20s. Behind her were a dozen equally young people, and Nara was being carried by one of the men. However, Nara was unconscious at the moment. Who are you people? I'm Alma the... Guys, if it's convenient, can you return my friend to me? Jalanash looked at Alma and the others. Of course. Alma smiled back. But can you give that little guy to me? Jalanash glanced at the frozen mutant crystal reindeer. The little guy you're talking about isn't easy to deal with. It's fine. Didn't you already freeze it? I have to say, you solved the big problem for me. Alma smiled. Its mutated form and its strength both exceeded my expectations. If it wasn't for you, I'm afraid I would have to spend a lot of effort to solve this problem. If you want to take it to claim the bounty, I won't object. It's useless to me anyway. But can you return my friend to me first? But Amada shook her head and maintained her smile. She seemed to be chanting some kind of incantation. Jala Nash was immediately alerted. The woman in front of her gave her a dangerous feeling. She didn't know anything about the background of these people. But what was certain was that they were definitely not friends. Suddenly, the ice sealing the mutant crystal reindeer vibrated. Hum. This vibration was accompanied by a certain frequency. Hum. The frequency increased. The next instant, the ice suddenly exploded. Jalanash hurriedly dodged, and the magic inside the mutant crystal reindeer began to grow wildly. It was growing at a frightening speed. Jalanash was about to suppress it. But the next moment, a murderous aura pressed toward Jalanash. Little girl, you'd better behave yourself. Otherwise, your companion will die even faster. Jalanash's brows showed a hint of darkness. What did you do? Jalanash asked, pointing at the mutant crystal reindeer. Metamorphosis. I made it metamorphose. It hasn't gone through metamorphosis. Jalanash was shocked. She had thought that the mutant crystal reindeer had mutated because of an accident during its metamorphosis. She didn't expect that its mutation wasn't caused by metamorphosis. It was already terrifying enough. With its current strength, it was close to the peak of calamity. It was just one step away from calamity. If it metamorphosed again, it would definitely surpass calamity or even reach an even more terrifying level. What are you trying to do? Amada kept smiling. Don't you understand? It's my pet. Coldness flashed in Jalanash's eyes. In other words, you purposely placed it here to cause trouble? According to the information they had, the mutant crystal reindeer had already caused more than a dozen casualties. Yes, Amada replied calmly. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.